ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकं। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। Jai Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya. The Shanti Mantra from Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad urges the Lord to lead us from ignorance to truth and from darkness to light. As you all know, lighting the lamp has a great significance in our Vedic culture. We know that Krishna represents light. From Bhagavad Gita, we know he says, Prabhasmi Shashi Suryayo. So the light which reflects knowledge is Lord Krishna. So there's a deeper meaning to lighting the lamp. The wick represents our ego, and the oil or the ghee represents our vasanas. So let us light a lamp today of knowledge that will remove our vasanas and eventually clear our ego. I humbly request Her Grace Radha Mataji and Her Grace Janava Mataji to please start with the lamp lighting. Can you play the Asatoma song? What happened?
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram.
बोल सखी संग फेस्ट की जय.
Haribol, this is only the beginning of the day. Lot of nectar remaining. So hold on tight. Y'all ready for a whole day of bhakti? All right. Yeah, please. What I want to present is a welcome dance, a classical welcome dance presented by Miss Radha Hasini. So Radha Hasini is in 9th class, studying in Sri Sai Public School, Hapsiguda. She has been learning dance from her very childhood, from UKG, and she's been training under her guru, Miss Lalita, in Ganesh and Nrityalayam. So she has performed many places and in many prominent places like Ravindra Bharati, Tyagaraja Gana Sabha, Potti Sri Ramlu University, Sundaraya Gana Sabha, etc. And she has won first prize in the RDS Dance Studio competition. So Ms. Radha Hasini will present Bharatnatyam, a classical rendition of Swagatam Krishna and Madhurashtra.
ఎవరికైనా కావాలంటే పంపించాను.
కుందన కిట తకధీ తకతరే కుందన కిట తకధీ. స్వాగతం కృష్ణ శరణాగతం కృష్ణ, స్వాగతం కృష్ణ శరణాగతం కృష్ణ. మధురా పురి సదనా మృదువదనా మధుసూదన ఇహ స్వాగతం కృష్ణ శరణాగతం కృష్ణ. మధురా పురి సదనా మృదువదనా మధుసూదన ఇహ స్వాగతం కృష్ణ శరణాగతం కృష్ణ. మధురా పురి సదనా మృదువదనా మధుసూదన ఇహ స్వాగతం కృష్ణ శరణాగతం కృష్ణ. భోగదాత సులభ సుపుష్పగంధ కలవా, భోగదాత సులభ సుపుష్పగంధ కలవా. కస్తూరి తిలక మహిమ మమ కాంతనంద గోపగంధ. స్వాగతం కృష్ణ.
धनं मधुरं वदनं मधुरं नयनं मधुरं हसितं मधुरम् अधरं मधुरं वदनं मधुरं नयनं मधुरं हसितं मधुरं हृदयं मधुरं हृदयं मधुरं गमनं मधुरं मधुराधिपतेरखिलं मधुरं मधुराधिपतेरखिलं मधुरम् वचनं मधुरं चरितं मधुरं वसनं मधुरम् वचनं मधुरं चरितं मधुरं वसनं मधुरं वलितं मधुरं चलितं मधुरं चलितं मधुरम् चलितं मधुरं भ्रमितं मधुरं मधुराधिपतेरखिलं मधुरं मधुराधिपतेरखिलं मधुरम्
तां तक्क झुण्णु दरिगिडतगद किट्ट तक्क तक्क झुण्णु झणगिडतगद किट्ट कांगिडतगद धिन्न तां तक्क धिन्न तां तक्क धिन्न तां तक्क धिन्न
वेणोर्मधुरो रेणोर्मधुरः वेणोर्मधुरो रेणोर्मधुरः पाणिर्मधुरः पादौ मधुरौ वेणोर्मधुरो रेणोर्मधुरः पाणिर्मधुरः पादौ मधुरौ
तदित धण्डत झुण्णु तां झुण्णु तद्धिमित किटते तदित धण्डत झुण्णु तां ततरितां झुण्णु तद्धिमित किटते ततरिते ततरि दण्डतां धिमित किटते ततरि दण्डतां धिमित किटते झुण्णु तां किटते झुण्णु तां किटते तदि दण्ड झुण्णु धिमित तिङ्गिणतं ता झं 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 ता तद्धीङ्गिणतं तद्धीङ्गिणतं झं तझं तझं झं ता तद्धीङ्गिणतं तद्धीङ्गिणतं तर्गं तर्गं तत्तर्गं
नृत्यं मधुरं सख्यं मधुरं नृत्यं मधुरं सख्यं मधुरं मधुराधिपतेरखिलं मधुरं मधुराधिपतेरखिलं मधुरम् गीतं मधुरम् गीतं मधुरं गीतं मधुरं भुक्तं मधुरं सुखं मधुरं गीतं मधुरं गीतं मधुरं भुक्तं मधुरं सुखं मधुरं रूपं मधुरं तिलकं मधुरं रूपं मधुरं तिलकं मधुरं मधुराधिपतेरखिलं
Thank you so much, Radhasini Mataji. Such a wonderful rendition of the song. Madhurashtakam is one of my favorite bhajans. I listen to it every day, but seeing her perform to this Madhurashtakam has been so wonderful. Thank you, Mataji. Radhasini Mataji, can you come and take a small token from us? Thank you so much. Hope everyone is settled down. On behalf of Sakhi Sanga, I would like to take 10 minutes to introduce our forum to all of you. Ankita Mataji, can we have the PowerPoint? Sakhi Sanga PowerPoint. So it has been 2 years that we have formed this forum, and the inspiration behind our Sakhi Sanga is none other than our Sita Mataji, who's sitting in front. So one day we were just casually talking, and Sita Mataji felt that we need some platform for all the Vaishnavis to connect. And since then I've realized that we have immense talent here among all the Vaishnavis here, and it really went unrecognized. Like living in Hyderabad, I didn't know what Mataji in the neighborhood was doing. So there were a lot of services going on from everyone, and we just didn't have a common platform. So I think that's been the drive for us to create this forum, and since then it's been wonderful. We have come to form so many intimate relationships, so many friendships. So I think basis of our Sakhi Sanga, to call it Sakhi also, we just thought, we'd be friends first and then encourage each other in bhakti. I think if we can do that basic necessity of being a good friend, being there for each other, supporting each other, both physically, emotionally, and spiritually, then we can all progress together. So I just have a little PowerPoint. Ankita Mataji, any problem? Ankita Mataji, PowerPoint. So it's a very, I would say, our forum is very young. It's just been 2 years that we started this. So we have a little bit of, came up with a vision and a mission for our Sakhi Sanga. Next slide. So the vision is to create a Vaishnavi community for us to serve Srila Prabhupada's mission together. So that's a global community, actually. So our vision is to really go global with all the Vaishnavis connecting with each other. And our mission to do this is, like I said, to support, inspire, encourage, and go together hand in hand to achieve what we have envisioned. Next slide. Like I said, the mission is to provide a platform for Vaishnavi Association to support, inspire, and empower both physically, spiritually, and emotionally. So that's what we've been trying to do through this platform. Next slide. Next slide, Mach. So I'm sorry, this is too far and we don't have a laptop here. So our core values have been to nurture intimate Vaishnavi relationships, which we are doing through various ways. Promote female devotee Sangha. So I know we meet in the temple, we attend, Bhakti Vriksha, Bhakti Shastri, but what I realized is there was hardly any time to network on a true heart-to-heart basis. And then so we are networking to serve Srila Prabhupada's mission, empower women. And like I said, we see a lot of skills in many women. So we want to empower each other and use all these skills in Krishna's service. And to provide personal, emotional, and spiritual support. And also one of the core values is to inspire bhakti in other women who are, have an interest in bhakti but really don't know where to go. So we've been encouraging Mathajis with the slightest interest in bhakti. It could be, may not be Krishna bhakti, any bhakti. So we are trying to channelize them towards this forum so they understand, what true spiritual relationships are. So that's been our core values. And over these 2 years, we have done many activities. So some of the activities are listed here. So we do a daily morning japa session. So our session goes from 5:30 to 7 a.m. So all Mathajis together, we chant, a congregational chanting. And then we have been meeting regularly, and thanks to COVID, I think it has some way helped us to be, regular in our sanghas. So every Tuesday from 4 to 5, we meet on a virtual Zoom platform, and we have done multiple classes. They've been so nourishing for us. Like we've done Kunti prayers, we've done Vaishnava relationships, Vaishnava qualities. Right now we are doing Mukundamala Stotram, we are doing Chaitanya Charitamritam, we are doing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu South India Yatra. So many, many different spiritual bhakti topics we have done. And every month, once, again we have realized that, just virtual Sangha is not adequate. So we are meeting once a month in a physical Sangha. So once a month we all meet in one of the Mathajis' houses. And then we have been celebrating festivals together. We have done one Dham Yatra to Yadgir Gutta. It was a one-day trip, and it was, liked by one and all. And we do special programs during Kartik month and Purushottam month. We have learned, bhajans and kirtans, and we have lovely kirtaniyars in our group. I mean, amazing. You just got a taste of one of the kirtans. So we have lovely kirtaniyars. So we get very inspired and very nourished with all that every week. And then we have done, a lot of talent. We have had cooking workshops. So those who want to cook for Krishna, here we are. And those who want to bake for Krishna, there's much more talent here. So we've done all these activities. Am I missing something? The last one? Pardon? Yes. So last 2 years we've done, I'm sorry, I can't see that. So we've done book distribution together, and we did, at temples, at shops, and it's been so good because all of us individually want to do it, but I think when we all got together, it was so much more inspiring. So we were able to do a lot there. So that's a little bit about Sakhi Sanga, and we have over 300 registrations so far. We started with 2 years ago. So and then we are looking for many more. Welcome, Harivalabhi Mataji. we have a celebrity here. So we have a registration desk in the front for Sakhi Sanga. So those who wish to join this forum are very, very welcome. No matter what stage of Krishna consciousness they are, we welcome you with an open heart, and then let's all go together towards Srila Prabhupada's mission. So that's a little bit about Sakhi Sanga. So as the team gets ready, can we run the Sakhi Sanga video? the mood, for all of you to understand the mood of Sakhi Sanga, we have actually come up with a song, our very own song. So, very own song. It's been composed and written by our team members, and it speaks about the mood of Sakhi Sanga, which I said is one of friendship and service to each other, so that we advance in bhakti together, hand in hand. I request our dear Sita Mataji, Hari Vallabi Mataji, Krishnaveni Mataji, Namrata Mataji to get ready for the song. The credits for the song goes, composed by Sita Mataji and Hari Vallabi Mataji, music by Krishnaveni Mataji. Little word about Hari Vallabi Mataji. Mataji, I warmly welcome you to this forum. I know Hari Vallabi Mataji is the fame of, come on, let's chant his name, Lord Krishna will be happy. So she has over 5 lakh views from this song of hers. She's a disciple of His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj. She's originally from Ujjain. She's presently married and settled in Hyderabad with a 3-year-old beautiful daughter. She has been in Krishna consciousness for the last 16 years, and she has amazing musical talent that she is utilizing in the service of Guru and Krishna. I welcome Hari Vallabi Mataji, Sita Mataji, Namrata Mataji, and Krishnaveni Mataji. Over to you. So this song is going to be fun. So happy to see you. Same here, Mataji. Mataji, you need a standing mic?
संग संग सखियों का संग यह कृष्ण भक्त सखियों का संग खुशियों का संग सखियों का संग सखी संगा सखी संगा सखी संगा सखी संगा सखी संगा Sakhi Sanga, let's all chant together. Sakhi Sanga, let's all dance together. Sakhi Sanga, let's all chant together. Sakhi Sanga, let's all dance together. गोपियों के पद चिन्हों पर हम सेवा भाव में रहते हैं, भक्तों के संग में रहते हैं, श्रद्धा से आगे बढ़ते हैं। सखी संगा सखी संगा, let's all chant together. Sakhi Sanga, let's all dance together. Sakhi Sanga, let's all chant together. Sakhi Sanga, let's all dance together. चलो सब साथ जपो हरे कृष्ण जपो, चलो सब साथ जपो हरे कृष्ण जपो, चलो सब साथ जपो हरे कृष्ण जपो, चलो सब साथ जपो हरे कृष्ण जपो। Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
For
For the lyrics, Sita Mataji ko, Hari Bol.
Thank you very much. Hare
And
Krishna.
for the music, the tune given by Hari Vallabha Mataji,
Mataji.
Hari Bol.
And the background score by Krishnaveni
And
Mataji.
the background score, my son Pradyumna has helped me to give this particular beautiful track. And thank you for the opportunity and all your blessings to my son. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. So we plan to make this as our theme song, and all our events and programs we can all sing together. So this is the first time, so we are very happy to present this to all of you. Thank you.
All of them.
So, time for some katha now. So, we'll get serious and get great inspiration from our esteemed speakers. So, I humbly request Her Grace Radha Mataji to come onto the dais, and I request Her Grace Sita Mataji to come onto the dais to introduce Radha Mataji to us.
Very, very honored and very, very blessed to have Radha Mataji. So I would like to give a little bit of an introduction about her. And actually she lives in United States, in San Diego, and she has come here just for a 1-year sabbatical of service to India, and we have been fortunate to get this opportunity to get her to grace this program. So I'll just give you a little bio about her. Radha Devi Dasi is a disciple of His Holiness Mukunda Goswami and has practiced Bhakti Yoga since the mid-1980s. She has served as a temple board member in New Govardhan, California, and New Vrindavan, West Virginia. Along with her husband Yudhishthir Das, she has been involved in congregational preaching since the early 1990s. She has a lifelong interest in issues concerning women and children and currently serves as ISKCON's International Vaishnavi Minister. Her past services includes work with ISKCON Communications and Child Protection Office, as well as congregational preaching. Radha Mataji is a graduate of Harvard Law School and practices law in the US with an emphasis on helping victims of domestic abuse. She is a trained peer counselor for domestic abuse issues and previously taught at Chapman University School of Law and the University of San Diego School of Law. And she and her husband are very senior preachers, and they have in San Diego started their a very, very successful preaching program called as Bhakti Chakra groups, which was so immensely successful that they managed to transform Western people to become devotees and even come to the point of initiation. So we are very, very blessed to have you. Please give her a big hand and welcome her for today's program. And we'll start with the first seminar. Hare Krishna.
Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnanan Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Well, I just want to say thank you so much for inviting me here. I'm already inspired. Oh, that's not. On their own initiative, to create Sangha for ladies is really inspiring to me. And so many ladies, you know? So I think it's going to be a few minutes before we're ready. Okay, ladies, if we can get ourselves sorted quickly, otherwise prasadam will be late, right? No one wants that. Okay, Srila Prabhupada is very pleased right now. He's looking at all of these ladies serving each other, and he's very grateful. So to the organizers for organizing, to all of you who have come, thank you so much. Thank you so very much. This is a huge thing. So this presentation is called Srila Prabhupada and His Daughters. And I hope to both bring Srila Prabhupada forward a little bit, but also to give some discussion to the idea of how do we serve as Vaishnavis. Because men and women are different, and we're different for a reason, right? But many times in our ISKCON communities, the role models are men, right? The Vaishnavas, which is fine. But it's just that if I'm a young devotee and I'm looking to see what my spiritual life, what my devotional service should look like, looking at the Prabhus doesn't always help me, So we need to have Vaishnavi role models and support each other. And Srila Prabhupada was very, very grateful to his Vaishnavi disciples. He used to call the ladies his secret weapon, because you can send a man out, to approach someone, to knock on a door and give a book. But many times people are hesitant, right? Who is this person? What do they want? Are they a threat to me? But if you send ladies out, it's so much easier, right? Especially young, beautiful ladies, and most Vaishnavis are young, beautiful ladies, at least for some time in our lives. And so he said, it's not accidental, it's not incidental that Vaishnavis came as well as Vaishnavas. Krishna did not send these ladies by accident. They're an important part of our history. So when Prabhupada started this movement, he had to go all the way to America. And my husband calls America Malaysia Desh, right? The land of the completely fallen. And really, that's true. And when Prabhupada came, he went at first to the higher class of people, because some Indian swamis were having some success there. But he was the pure message, the complete message of Krishna consciousness means giving up some things, right? And when you have a lot, it's hard to give it up. So these people struggled. They appreciated him, but they weren't necessarily able to take this message. So Prabhupada, by Krishna's arrangement, ended up in the worst part of New York, around people who had dropped out of society. And many of them came from wealthy families, they were educated, but they were so frustrated with the emptiness of material life that they were looking for something new. And so they came to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was so patient and so tolerant. Someone described to me once that the devotees who were coming at first, some of them would sleep in the temple room because they were homeless, basically. And one morning, Srila Prabhupada is picking his way out, right, to go outside. And someone wakes up and says, "Swamiji, where are you going?" And Prabhupada says, I'm going to take care of my immigration papers. And they all said, "Oh, Haribol, Hare Krishna Swami," and went back to sleep, right? That's not how we normally think that, the disciple and the spiritual master should behave, right? But Prabhupada was so patient and so tolerant that he was willing to let them come along at their own pace. And why is that important? Because it tells us, first of all, that Srila Prabhupada is supremely merciful, right? Who wants to go and serve somewhere where people, don't understand how to reciprocate? That's hard. It's hard. Our false egos can get in the way. But Srila Prabhupada was so focused on what does Krishna want. Krishna wants these fallen souls to be saved. He wants these fallen souls to come back to his feet. So whatever I have to tolerate, I will tolerate. And that's important because it tells us how we have to be when we try to share Krishna consciousness. So I hope that, in this presentation we will learn to understand a little bit more about Srila Prabhupada. All right, so can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, so we are not just Vaishnavas, we are Gaudiya Vaishnavas. We are followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And one of the things that first attracted me to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the fact that he was a revolutionary. We don't always think about that. But he was the first, instigator of civil disobedience in India, right? When the Chankazi said, you cannot chant the holy names, Mahaprabhu said, we're going down there. All of us are going, and we are going to bring our drums, and we are going to defy his order. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also brought this message that we are not the body, right? But that anyone in this lifetime can become a pure devotee of the Lord. The material qualifications do not stop bhakti. So the rules about who could chant Om, right? Who could approach the Lord? Who could do deity worship? These things are not subject. These things do not stop bhakti. Bhakti is higher than these things. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brought this message. So when Prabhupada came to America, he's coming in the context of bhakti first, social considerations second, right? Social considerations are still very important, but bhakti also has to be in there. Vishaka Prabhu has a beautiful way of saying it, that our movement is traditional, but it is tradition illuminated by bhakti. Okay? So I hope that this will become a little clearer as we go forward. And we can look at the next slide, please. Okay. So unity in diversity. Someone's going to need to read this. Is there another microphone? Because I can't see from here. So someone else will have to read the text, please. Oh, beautiful. Okay, perfect. That's okay. Yes, thank you. Okay, oops. Okay, unity in diversity. This is Srila Prabhupada writing in Chaitanya Charitamrita. It is not necessary that the rules and regulations followed in India be exactly the same as those in Europe, America, and other Western countries. Simply imitating without effect is called niyamagraha, not following the regulative principles, but instead living extravagantly is also called niyamagraha. We should not follow regulative principles without an effect, nor should we fail to accept the regulative principles. What is required is a special technique according to time, country, and candidate. So, as a young rebellious Westerner, I read this and thought, oh, I don't have to think about tradition at all. That's not true, okay? But what this does mean is that ours is a personal movement. Krishna is seeking to have a personal relationship with each one of us, so that what works for me may not work for somebody else, and I have to keep that in mind when I'm trying to share Krishna consciousness. Now, what did Prabhupada say about the role of women? So if we can do the next slide. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, is that the same slide? Yes. Girls who are living in New Vrindavan should be engaged in the following activities. 1, taking care of the children. 2, cleaning the temple kitchen, etc. 3, cooking. And 4, churning butter, from a letter he wrote in 1969. Sounds very traditional, right? And sometimes people want to read this and say, okay, ladies, these are your 4 activities, go, right? So if you could just, yeah, okay, so we have the second quote there. A woman's real business is to look after the household affairs, keep everything neat and clean. The women should be sewing, in another letter. So we can go to the next slide. So he writes to Govindadasi, you have good writing capacity and good artistic ability. Now devote your life to chanting Hare Krishna, and if possible, write articles on Krishna consciousness, as many as possible, with your own paintings, and send it for publication to Back to Godhead. Okay? So which way are we meant to go? You know, you're at home, you take care of your family, you know, you churn the butter, right? Or wait, now you've got to write articles, you've got to do paintings, you've got to do other things. So which instruction do we follow? Next one. Next slide, please. Hridayananda Goswami likes to say, you can't use Srila Prabhupada to argue with Srila Prabhupada, okay? Srila Prabhupada didn't just say the women should be at home and churning butter, and he also didn't just say you need to do other things, you need to be a preacher, you need to be, you know, writing articles. He said both of those things, right? So we have to understand Srila Prabhupada in the context of all of his instructions, right? And we have to look for the principle that underlies those instructions. Just like we have the analogy of the elephant, right? That the blind men come up with an elephant, and one touches the trunk and says, oh, the elephant is like a tree, like a snake. The other touches the tail and says, the elephant is like a rope. And another says, no, the elephant is like a tree, because he's touching the elephant's leg. But the elephant is all of those things. And you have to have vision to be able to see the whole elephant, okay? So Srila Prabhupada gave us a lot of principles, and then he gave specific instructions, specific instructions to different disciples. And that's how we have to approach our spiritual life. What are the general principles? And then what applies right now in the circumstance that I'm in? And that takes guidance. It takes Shiksha and Diksha gurus, but it also takes maturity and realization. So why am I so passionate about this subject? What you have on the screen there are pictures of my daughter when she was about 3 years old. So on the left side, you see her the way I would always like to see her. She's neat, she's clean, and she's reading Srimad Bhagavatam, right? I'm such a good mother. But then in the next picture, what do you see? You see the little wild lady. And my daughter was those two children. You know, both of those were legitimate sides of her name is Prema Bhakti. Very strong personality, very amusing, likes to make jokes, but also has a very serious side. And we were in the temple room one day. There was a kirtan going on, and I was standing in the back with the ladies. We all stood in the back in those days. And my daughter liked to go up and stand right in front of Lord Krishna, you know. And usually she would go with her father, so it was fine. But that day she decided she wanted Mata to come with her to the front of the temple room. And she's pulling on my arm and pulling on my arm, and it's the middle of a kirtan, and you know, it's noisy for one thing, and for another thing, I would like to be chanting, you know. So I just quickly told her, no, the brahmacharis won't like it if I go up there. And she pulled away from me, and she looked at me, and she walked up to the nearest brahmachari and punched him in the leg as hard as she could. And I thought, okay, I'm not giving her the right message. You know, that was a parenting fail. But I also thought, she's not the only little girl who has this strong personality, who has this desire, this fierce passion to be there with Krishna. So I'm okay standing in the back, you know, it doesn't bother me, but what about her? What about these other little girls? What about older girls, you know, who maybe just can't accept this? Are we making a welcoming environment, a supportive environment for all of the ladies to become Krishna conscious? And when my daughter was a little bit older, Radhanath Swami was talking to me, and I was, again, complaining about her passionate nature. And he said, she will never be a lukewarm follower of her parents' religion, right? So she's not the kind of person that will just go along, go with the flow, be mellow, and just be kind of Krishna conscious. If she's going to be Krishna conscious, it's going to be a wholehearted thing because that's the kind of person she is. And Radhanath Swami helped me to understand that my job was not to squish that passion out of her. My job was to help direct it in the right way. And I often say that everything I've learned about preaching, I learned from raising children. That this is the thing, that Krishna doesn't want every devotee to be like every other devotee. Krishna wants you, with your propensities and your talents and your inclinations, to offer service. So we need to both embrace our own talents and inclinations and use them in Krishna's service, but we also need to assist other Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, both, to do that. But as Vaishnavis, we have the special opportunity to do that for each other. Okay. So we can go to the next slide, please. All right, so when I joined ISKCON, at first, the impression I had of Srila Prabhupada is very much an awe and reverence kind of picture. He's our founder acharya, he's a pure devotee, he's given us instructions, we follow them. But as I got to know more Srila Prabhupada disciples, I got a more nuanced vision. And I will say one thing about America, it is a very tough place to practice Krishna consciousness, but there are a lot of Prabhupada disciples there, and that almost makes up for it. So in the beginning, ISKCON was a family. It was a very small group. You see this picture, that's Mukunda, now Goswami, and his wife, Janaki, leaning over Prabhupada, and Janaki is threatening to steal his passport so that he can't leave. And Prabhupada wrote to Janaki, I always think of you as my naughty daughter. As you are remembering me, so I am remembering you. And in that way, we are never separated. And I always think that's such a sweet, sweet mood. That's Krishna, and that's Srila Prabhupada, and they're talking to us. That message is not just for Janaki, it's for all of us. That Prabhupada, is our father, and he loves us, and he wants us to love him. All right. Next slide, please. So this is a statement from Narayani Devi, who was one of Prabhupada's disciples, and who just coincidentally recently became ISKCON's first Vaishnavi Diksha Guru. We are a movement that has had Vaishnavi Diksha Gurus from almost the beginning, Janavamata was a Diksha Guru, but this is ISKCON's first Vaishnavi Diksha Guru. And what she says is, during the first 7 years in India, my husband and I were Radha Govinda's pujaris in the Calcutta temple. I was offering Mangalartik, the 12 o'clock artik, the 4 o'clock artik, and the evening artik. And I was dressing the deities, putting them to rest, making garlands, taking care of Tulsi, and sewing. We made 52 deity dresses. I also got to go out and collect. I slept 4 hours a day. In India, Prabhupada didn't discriminate between men and women. Women did deity worship in Bombay, Delhi, Hyderabad, and Calcutta. In every ISKCON temple in India except Mayapur. Women were doing all kinds of services: cooking, harinam, leading bhajans, preaching, purchasing deities for the temple. It was innocent in those days, informal and friendly like a family. God brothers and God sisters were so enthusiastic to chant and preach. so dedicated to Srila Prabhupada, we never thought about mixing together improperly. The feelings we had toward one another were not ones of hatred or inferiority or superiority, but of mutual respect. I joined because we all felt that Srila Prabhupada was our common father. So in the beginning, ISKCON was very small. There was not a whole lot of hierarchy. You know, Prabhupada was at the top level, and everyone else was just trying to serve him. So we don't necessarily want to imitate what they did, but we want to understand this principle that everyone has service to offer. Everyone has a contribution to make, and that we have to treat each other with respect and love. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay, so Yamuna Devi, probably you're all familiar with Yamuna Devi, one of Srila Prabhupada's very, very first disciples. And she was known for her dedication to Srila Prabhupada. He empowered her to do a lot of things. She spoke publicly on Srimad Bhagavatam in his presence. She led kirtans publicly in his presence. He taught her deity worship. She was the first pujari in ISKCON. And he also praised her leadership abilities, encouraging her to work with the men when they were opening Krishna Balaram Temple, for example. But Srila Prabhupada also understood etiquette, you know, and how men and women have to relate to each other in careful ways. And one pastime that Yamuna Devi used to tell really stands out for me, that she was in the habit of sitting right in front of Srila Prabhupada when he spoke, because she was so anxious to hear what he had to say. And when they came to India with Srila Prabhupada, when the American devotees came to India, I think it was a big eye-opener for many of them, because there's so much etiquette and courtesy and proper behavior here, and they had not seen this before. So they were very anxious to become, you know, better devotees and to adopt this culture. So one of the men told Yamuna Devi, you know, it's not proper for you to sit up in the front, right in front of Srila Prabhupada. You know, he's a sannyas, you should have some respect and sit away. So she began to do this, because Yamuna was always humble. You know, she was not somebody who would agitate for her rights. You know, she was very humble. But Srila Prabhupada noticed that she was not sitting in front anymore. And when she was walking by his room one day, he asked her, you know, Yamuna, you don't like to hear me speak anymore? Why are you not, you know, sitting in your usual place? And she said, Prabhupada, you know, the sannyasis told me I should not sit in front of you, that it's not proper. And when I heard this pastime the first time, I'm thinking, oh, Prabhupada's going to tell her that, you know, bhakti is more important than these considerations, and, you know, she should sit wherever she wants by her spiritual master, right? Obviously, that's the answer. But that was not the answer that Srila Prabhupada gave. You know, he said, oh, and he nodded, yeah, that's correct, you know. And Yamuna said, that was such a blessing for her. Now, how is it a blessing that, you know, she has to be farther away from her guru, right? It was a blessing because she understood that she had to develop a relationship of service in separation with Srila Prabhupada, right? Because that intimate ras, I'm right here with you, Krishna, right? That's one ras. But a higher ras, right, is when the gopis are saying, Krishna, where are you? Krishna, where have you gone? Please, please. That's the highest ras, that service and separation. And Yamuna said she knew she had to develop that with Prabhupada. And because she did so, when Prabhupada left, she already was prepared to go on serving the rest of her life in separation, right? So again, you know, Prabhupada is not all one way or all another way, right? It's according to time, place, and circumstance. Okay, next slide. Malati Devi. Has Malati Devi come to Hyderabad recently? Okay, we have to work on that. Malati Devi is also one of Srila Prabhupada's very first disciples, and she and Yamuna, Janaki, Mukunda Goswami, Shamasundar, and Guru Das, they're the 6 that went from the US to the UK and met the Beatles and, started that whole part of ISKCON's history. So Malati had a lot of association with Srila Prabhupada, and one story she tells says a lot about Prabhupada. When they came to India, Malati was cooking for Srila Prabhupada, and she also had a 2-year-old baby. So as mothers, we know when you have a young baby, doing any kind of service is a challenge, all right? But this was ISKCON in the early days, so that challenges did not stop there, all right? They had just like one hut to live in. There's no kitchen. So they were cooking using buckets, right? You put the coals in the bucket. You know better than I do, but you put the coals in the bucket, right? And you build a fire and you cook. But there were only 2 buckets, okay? And one of the buckets she could only use for a certain amount of time before Prabhupada's servant came and got it, because he needed to give Prabhupada's bath water, right? So not only are you limited to cooking on 2 buckets outside over a, with open fire, but you can only use one of those buckets for part of the time. And not only was she cooking, but she had to go and buy the boga too. So she would start with the treasurer, and there was never enough Lakshmi, so she would have to argue with the treasurer to get the Lakshmi that she needed to buy the boga. And then she would have to take her daughter and go to the river and argue with the boatman about how much he's going to charge her to go over the river. Because even now, if you have white skin in India, in the rural areas, they charge you double or triple or quadruple, right? So she had barely enough money to get the boga, and then she's having to argue about the trip over. She'd go and buy the boga, and she'd have to bargain very hard because, again, they want to charge her extra, and she doesn't even have enough. And then go back over the river, right? And argue with the boatman again, and then go back and cook for Prabhupada, and argue with the devotees about, no, I need this for this service right now, no, I need it, And then she said, every time she would go and give Prabhupada the prasadam, he would tell her, this needs a little more salt, this was cooked a little too long, this is a little dry, every time giving her this feedback. And she said she started to feel like she could never please him, and she was the worst servant, and she decided, I'm just going to tell Prabhupada I have to give up this service, right? So the day that she was going to tell this to Prabhupada, he called her into his room early and said, my godbrothers are coming for lunch, and he's giving her instructions, and she thought, okay, this is not a good day to tell him that I want to change my service. And just, okay, Prabhupada. So she, went through all the austerity, cooked the lunch, and then she was carrying Prabhupada's plate into him. His godbrothers are lined up, on the walls of the room. And she said when she opened the door, put her head in the doorway, she could feel the disapproval, right? Why is this young Mataji coming in here, right? And she said she pulled her, sari over her head so it covered her face. And she's holding the plate and kind of combat crawling on her knees and her elbows to bring the plate to Srila Prabhupada, and she put it down, and she's crawling back. And she heard Srila Prabhupada say to his godbrothers, yes, she cooks for me, and she would cut her throat for me, and I would cut my throat for her. So Srila Prabhupada knew that his godbrothers didn't always approve of the service that he gave to Vaishnavis, right? It wasn't traditional. But he was making the point that these disciples, as Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, they're special. And that his love for Malati was just as deep as her love for him. And Malati Prabhu said, after that, she never considered giving up the service. And she realized that when Prabhupada was saying, oh, more salt, too dry, that he was reciprocating with her. She had a desire to cook as well as possible for him, and he was helping her, you know? So that's the kind of love that Prabhupada has for us. You know, a lot of times we hear these stories and we think, oh, what an amazing devotee, she's so exalted, etc. Yes, that's all true. But we should understand that our goal is to become like her, right? So Srila Prabhupada wants us to have this relationship with him. Rukmini Devi is another early Prabhupada disciple. She joined when she was 16 years old. She had left her parents' home and was roaming around the US. Can you imagine if your 16-year-old daughter said, you know, I'm leaving home and I'm going to go and, you know, take rides from strangers and wander with my girlfriends and see what we find, you know? That's the situation she was in. But Krishna was so kind, right? And she was so intelligent that she came into contact with Prabhupada's devotees and his books and surrendered to him. But she tells a story how when she was very new, I think she was 17 maybe at the time, or maybe even still 16, Prabhupada was speaking in San Francisco, and he said to the devotees, I want all of you to go out and open a temple. And she spontaneously blurted out, even the girls, Srila Prabhupada? You know, because as ladies, we don't always think I'm going to go out and take charge, right? But he said, yes, even the girls. Right? Because this mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's is so important. It is so vital to this world. We can't afford to say, oh, I'm a lady, I can't do that. Right? Souls are suffering. Everyone in this world is suffering, and it just becomes more and more obvious that we're all insane. You know, the planet is warming up. All of these disasters are happening. We know what's happening, we know what needs to be done, and we can't fix it because we're crazy, because Maya has got us so firmly in her grip, right? And that's just the tip of the iceberg on the suffering part, okay? So we have to be passionate like that about sharing Krishna consciousness with others, that even the girls, my job is to go out there, you know, whether it's in my family, in my neighborhood, in my, you know, play group of mothers, whatever it is, to share Krishna consciousness. Okay, so yes, thank you. Krishna Nandini, also disciple of Prabhupada. Krishna Nandini was brought to Krishna consciousness by her mother, Bhumata. Bhumata was a yoga teacher, and she started reading Prabhupada's books. And I think she had 6 children at the time. And they didn't really fit with the temple community. It was all, you know, young people in their early 20s. None of them had children, right? So Bhumata had actually started writing independently to Srila Prabhupada. She didn't know she was supposed to go through the temple president. So she was writing to him, and he was writing back, right? And at one point, he was in Dallas, and Bhumata took her family to Dallas, and it's a very mystical story how they got there, but we don't have time to hear the whole thing. But they got there, and Prabhupada was getting ready to have an initiation, and Bhumata wanted to be initiated, and she wanted her older children to be initiated also. And the temple president in Dallas said, Prabhupada, I don't know these people. You know, I don't know what their standard is. I don't know if they're ready. I can't recommend them. You should not initiate them. And Prabhupada met with Bhumata, and he did. He decided to initiate them, even though they didn't have a temple president's recommendation from Cleveland, where they started, and the temple president in Dallas didn't know them. And he told the temple president, wherever I see a spark of devotion, a spark of bhakti, I have to fan it, right? So this woman was so dedicated that she was, just by reading Prabhupada's books, she was inspired to take up bhakti yoga, to bring her children to Prabhupada and to beg for his mercy. And he said, you know, I have to give her shelter, right? So that's the mercy Prabhupada is offering us. Next slide. Okay, Mandakini Devi. Mandakini's French, and she was introduced to Srila Prabhupada in the UK. And she's very sincere. But the thing that is most known about Mandakini is she's one of the first devotees who went to Russia and helped open the Russian Yatra. It's a pretty amazing story how Prabhupada went to Russia because he was invited by a university to go and speak. He was going as a scholar. He was going as a scholar. And at that time, religion was forbidden in Russia. So the devotees were told, don't bring any literature, don't try to share your religion with anybody. And they weren't not planning to bring any books at all, right? But Malati Prabhu, Shamasundar's wife, she just couldn't accept that Prabhupada could go somewhere and not bring a book, because everywhere the devotees went, they distributed books all the time, everywhere. It was a part of what being a devotee meant. So she snuck this Bhagavad Gita into her husband's luggage. He didn't even know it was in there. And by Krishna's mercy, when they got to customs and their luggage was examined, the customs officials didn't notice this book. Okay? So by Krishna's mercy, the first Bhagavad Gita gets into Russia, right? And in the course of going to the university and meeting with the professor he came to see, Prabhupada also met this young man named Anatoly. And by that one meeting with Anatoly and reading that Bhagavad Gita, that one meeting with Srila Prabhupada and reading the Bhagavad Gita, Anatoly became inspired to become a devotee. Okay? So here's where Mandakini's memory begins. She was praying, my dear Sri Sri Landaneshvara, please have Srila Prabhupada ask me to say something difficult, and please remind me to say yes right away. Then I heard that Srila Prabhupada was in Russia with Shamasundar. I thought of Prabhupada's bravery. Russia was such a strange and terrible place. I myself would never want to go there. When he returned from Russia, Srila Prabhupada looked at me with a big smile and said, Mandakini? Yes, Srila Prabhupada? His tone was casual and familiar, like he was going to send me across the street to buy potatoes. He said, would you like to go to Russia and marry this boy, Anatoly? And she said, yes, Srila Prabhupada. So she had been praying, let me do something for Prabhupada, let me do something big. And he asked her, I mean, imagine if your spiritual master came and said, will you go to a foreign country and marry this person you've never met who's going to be the only devotee in the entire country? No. No, I would not. But she said yes, and she went. And sometimes we think, as women, we can't be brave, we can't be, outgoing. But in the right circumstances, that's what we're called upon to be. And that's why it's important that if you have those qualities, you cultivate them, right? If your children or your god sisters have those qualities, honor them, because we can use them for Krishna's service. All right. So next slide, please. What are the instructions of Prabhupada on women? What did Prabhupada want is what it boils down to. So what are we going to take away from this? Next slide, please. Okay, protection of women, Prabhupada. The protection of women maintains the chastity of society, by which we can get a good generation for peace, tranquility, and progress of life. And we all know, Prabhupada said, women should always be protected by their husband, their son, their father, right? And we hope that is always the case. But I'm going to add one more, and I'm going to say by the association of other Vaishnavis, right? This is Kali Yuga. Not everybody has a father or a husband that will protect them. So many times our sons, bless their hearts, there may be a reason why they can't protect us, right? So we have to protect each other. And in traditional society, women naturally protected each other because they were all part of the same family and they were all living together. we've gotten into this crazy lifestyle where everybody's, just mother, father, grandparents if you're lucky, right, and children, and then mother may be going out to work along with father, right? So we don't necessarily have that Sangha built into our lives. And for Vaishnavis, many times our families are not Vaishnavas, right? So we have to be that Sangha for each other. We have to be that family for each other. And sometimes that's challenging because we have so many other responsibilities, or my own experience is that sometimes people don't recognize how advanced I am. The other ladies don't understand how advanced I am, and they don't want to take my instructions, right? For some strange reason, I don't know why. But it means I have to put my false ego in my back pocket, right? Okay. But it's important. It's really important. Okay. Next slide. So, Prabhupada emphasized marriage. And in Chaitanya Charitamrita, he says, the first duty of a chaste woman is to carry out the order of her husband, right? And let's be really clear, okay? If you have a husband, if you're unfortunate and you have a husband who's crazy or has some problem and he says, eat meat or stop chanting Hare Krishna, no, don't carry out that order, okay? But for 99% of us, right, we have husbands. And the thing about marriage and home life, I think sometimes, at least in the West, not here so much, but in the West, we've forgotten how important marriage and family life are, right? Like I said, everybody's out working, everybody's on a separate agenda, and you want to watch that, as India becomes influenced by the West. You really want to watch that because it's a very destructive tendency. And what the wife does is creates the environment for the whole family to be Krishna conscious. Now, I worked most of my life outside the home, and my husband, because he was working for the temple, he had more flexibility. And I would not recommend that, okay? We did that because that's what allowed us to do the most service. But it was very difficult. And the natural inclination of the mother, right, is to connect and build relationships and nurture. Our brains, our biology, it's different from men's. And part of the difference is we are focused on those things like nurturing and connecting and having relationships. Men's focus tends to be into the outer world, right? But that inner world is so important. And I think this is one of the main problems with Western feminism, which is that it focuses on bringing women into men's spaces, but it does not value the female spaces, right? You cannot have a healthy society without having healthy homes. You cannot have healthy children without somebody there to do the nurturing. Now, if that's the father, Hare Krishna, that's wonderful. The service needs to get done, whoever can do it. But the truth is, in general, women are better at that service. So for us to take responsibility for creating that sacred space, for having, doing the cooking so that everything the family eats is prasad, for keeping the deity worship going, this is a huge contribution, and Srila Prabhupada knew that. Now, next slide. Marriage is also a reciprocation, right? The king will respect all women as if they were his own mother, and he will treat his own wife as the other half of his body. That's Srila Prabhupada in the purport to Bhagavatam. So it's not just women, okay, you serve, you carry out the instruction of your husband, you do this, but also the respect and the protection have to be there. Next slide. Next slide, please. Okay, motherhood. This is another big area for women, right? It's a cliche, but we can become mothers. Men can't do that, right? And it's not just the physical act of having the child, but again, it's that bonding and nurturing that our bodies are primed for. And there's one letter one Vaishnavi had written to Srila Prabhupada because she was a new mother, but she also had responsibilities for deity worship, and the temple president was kind of frustrated with her because the two things weren't going together very well. And so Prabhupada wrote to her, "I am simply surprised that you want to give up your child to some other persons. For you, child worship is more important than deity worship. If you cannot spend time with him, then stop the duties of pujari. These children are given to us by Krishna. They are Vaishnavas, and we must be very careful to protect them. They are not ordinary children, they are Vaikuntha children, and we are very fortunate we can give them a chance to advance further in Krishna consciousness. That is very great responsibility. Do not neglect it or be confused. Your duty is very clear." Okay? So the point that I want us to take away here is that being a mother is so important. It's really critical. We will not have a Krishna conscious society if there are not Krishna conscious mothers raising Krishna conscious children, right? And what does that mean for us? It means we have to become Krishna conscious, right? You can't give your children what you don't have. So we have to grab on to this bhakti process. We have to go deep into it. When I was a young devotee, I had a tendency to want to not read Prabhupada's books and just remember what other devotees were telling me, this is what's in Prabhupada's books, right? But no, I have to be responsible for my own spiritual journey. So we are asked to be mothers to the next generation of devotees. Take your spiritual life seriously. Okay. Confirmed. Okay. Next slide. Okay, so Prabhupada's our founder acharya. What does that mean? It means that he adjusts things, right? We follow the scriptures, we follow the tradition, but Prabhupada adjusts things as necessary. And there are two things he did that are, new. One of them is the idea of brahmacharini ashrams. He got to America, there's all these unmarried girls, what do we do with them? We have them live in the temple where they're going to be protected. Now, brahmacharini ashram, no brahmacharini ashram, that's not the point. The point is Vaishnavi Sanga, taking shelter of each other, right? So when we have women in our community who are struggling, sometimes our tendency is to want to say, well, they're bad association, let's just kind of shove them off to the side. But we can also give shelter to each other, right? Now, don't try to give shelter to somebody who's going to drag you down. Okay, don't do that, all right? But if you can, be supportive. All right, and then the other is the Brahma Gayatri. Srila Prabhupada decided to give Vaishnavis not the sacred thread, but the Brahma Gayatri mantra, which is a new thing in our sampradaya, okay? And why is that important? Because Srila Prabhupada did it, And so we have to respect what he's done and honor it. Sometimes, I'll be honest with you, sometimes I'm very lazy in my Krishna consciousness. And so the idea that I don't have to chant these mantras, I can just let my husband chant these mantras. I don't have to be a responsible Brahmin, I can just let my husband be a responsible Brahmin, right? All I have to do is serve him and, I get credit for whatever he does, okay? And you can do that, that's absolutely bona fide. But, if you're really passionate about serving Prabhupada, if you're passionate about serving Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then grab onto it with both hands, right? You chant the Gayatri Mantra, you become a responsible Brahmin. You teach others, you share with others, okay. And that leads into the next point. Next slide, please. Active service, all right? This is one of the things I take from all of these Vaishnavis who are Prabhupada disciples, and what they've shared with me is that Prabhupada had them 100% engaged, whether it was 100% engaged in raising their children, 100% engaged in traveling with their husbands and spreading Krishna consciousness, or 100% engaged in some other way. Prabhupada wrote to Himavati in 1969, in Bhagavad Gita, we find that women are also equally competent like the men in the matter of Krishna consciousness movement. Please, therefore, carry on these missionary activities and prove it by practical example that there is no bar for anyone in the matter of preaching work for Krishna consciousness. So it's not so much the idea that you have to serve in this way or you have to serve in that way. In the US, we have women as temple presidents, very motherly, loving environments, right? You don't have to do that here. It isn't required, right? And I always felt like, well, I'm certainly not ever going to be a temple president, you know? No, thank you. But what Prabhupada wants is that we give 100 and 110%. Sita Mataji and I were talking about that this morning, that we need to go out of our comfort zone for Krishna, right? To not just do what we know we can do, but to go farther, to do more. So male or female body doesn't matter, you know, 110% for Prabhupada. I think we're going to skip this slide and go to the next slide, please. Let's keep going because I'm not even sure what that is. All right. One more slide. Okay, this one. Yes. All right. I'm gonna sum up, you know, this bhakti tradition, right? Prabhupada wrote, "You dance, she dances. You sing, she sings. You cook, she cooks. There is no difference. You are the same in Krishna's eyes." Women are equally valuable to Krishna, right? I mean, relative to Krishna, we are all female, right? He's the enjoyer, we're all the enjoyed, male or female body. Don't think that you have nothing to offer or that your offering is lesser just because you're in a woman's body. It's not true. And if we go to the next slide, we can talk about Devahuti, all right? So Devahuti, what I was told when I joined, Devahuti is the ideal woman. You should strive to become like her, right? And she does go the very traditional route. She is a daughter, then she's a wife, and then she's a mother, right? So she's always under the protection of the natural protector of that particular age of her life. And she serves them. That's her dharma. She serves her husband so nicely. She suffers austerities when he says that's time to do that. You know, no complaints. And he's very grateful to her because she's such a faithful, loving, and chaste wife. And then she's a wonderful mother. And then her son leaves her, right? What the heck? You know, I thought we were supposed to be protected by father, husband, son, you know. This is not just any son. This is an incarnation of Krishna. And he just walked out on his mother. So what's going on here, right? But she's still protected. How is she protected? She's protected by the spiritual knowledge that he's just given her, right? And I imagine this cannot have been, you know, the ideal path that she saw for her life, that her husband was going to leave her and her son was going to leave her. You know, who anticipates that, right? But not only did she accept that shelter, right? Krishna, you've given me this knowledge now, you know, let me take shelter of it. But she spread it to the rest of the world. Prabhupada says Kapila Dev gave this message to his mother and through his mother to the world. So again, what are we called upon to do? We are called upon to imbibe Krishna consciousness so deeply in our hearts that it can never be uprooted, okay? But also to give it to others, right? How we do that will depend on our own personal talents and inclinations. But that we can do it and that we should do it, that cannot be denied. All right, so last slide. A lot of the pastimes that I just described from the different Vaishnavis are contained in this book, A Bond of Love. This is a compilation of memories of all of the Vaishnavi disciples of Srila Prabhupada that Malati Prabhu could track down. It's over 600 pages. It's that quintessential mango, no matter where you bite into it, it is sweet, it is nectar. So to make advancement in Krishna consciousness, getting the mercy of Srila Prabhupada is really important, right? And if you want to get the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, you have to get to know Srila Prabhupada, okay? So we do that by reading his books. That's very important. But we can also do that by hearing from his disciples, hearing from his associates. There's so many memoirs. There's a whole video series, Srila Prabhupada Memories. But now there's also this book. And because this is the Vaishnavis, it has that emotion, that heart, you know, the loving feeling of bhakti comes through in their recollections. So it's available at bookrightspress.com, but it's also available on Amazon India. And I think it might be a little cheaper there. So thank you all so much for listening so patiently. I don't know if there's time for questions. Do we want to take questions? Okay, are there any questions or comments? Corrections? Yes. Is there a microphone?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
My humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation, Mataji. It was really, really inspiring. I'm very grateful to you because you covered everything comprehensively. You did make a point that how one needs to apply, whether the traditional way or not so traditional way of applying Prabhupada's instruction, it depends on Shiksha, Diksha and maturity. So when does one realize that one is matured enough to apply the specific instructions given by Srila Prabhupada? Hare Krishna.
Thank you. That's a very good question. You know, how do we know when we're mature enough to figure out our own way? I don't know how we know that. I know how we know when we're not mature enough to figure it out, because we try something and we fall flat on our face. Okay. For me, that's what maturity means. It means I've made so many mistakes in my life that I have a pretty good sense of where I'm likely to fall down again. So, you know, take instruction from senior devotees. That's very, very important. But also know that if you make a mistake, you know, if you try something and you realize, oh, I'm in over my head, or, you know, this is not conducive, you know, maybe I made an offense inadvertently to a devotee, it's okay. You know, we just acknowledge, okay, that wasn't the right thing to do. I'm very sorry. Let me make amends and let me try again. You know, sometimes we think if I make a mistake in Krishna consciousness, everything is finished, right? Because this is so important to us, right? Offending devotees is such a dangerous thing. But if we're sincere and we take the humble position, we will be okay. Thank you. Okay.
Any other quick questions? If not, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your attention. Such a wonderful Sangha.
Thank you so much, Radha Mataji. Thank you so very much, Radha Mataji, for your, you know, we hear about Prabhupada, but, you know, when we hear from, you know, direct disciples of Prabhupada, your first-hand knowledge, that's very, very valuable to us, Mataji. Thank you. Mataji, could you hold on for 1 second? We request you to accept a little token of gratitude from us, Mataji. We request Modini Mataji to give this. And some cow products, Mataji, that the women made. So today our drama team is headed by Anangasundari Mataji and Suma Mataji, and they are going to depict. Meanwhile, can I request all the Matajis to move forward? We really have a lack of space there. Anyone who are willing to sit down, please, my request to come down so we can make some place. And please organize yourself in terms of your translation, Telugu group and Hindi group, because following the drama, we are going to have another seminar, so you will require the translation. Now, coming to the drama, we are going to depict the highest stage of pure devotional service unto Lord Krishna, the story of Dvijapatnis. I'm sure you all know the story. This took place in a place called Bhatrol. So, Bhat means rice, and this is a place where the Dvijapatnis offered food items to Krishna. So in this play, we are going to see the simple love of the Yagyapatnis towards Krishna, and it contrasts to the Brahmanas who were very learned in Vedas, who were knew all the rituals, but they missed the essence of bhakti towards Krishna. So at the end of this drama, it will be followed by Krishna with Gopi dance, which is again a topmost devotional service, difficult to understand by our mundane minds, but suffice it to say that these pastimes are entirely spiritual and pure. So sit back and watch the highest level of devotional service to Lord Krishna.
O Rama, Rama, mighty armed one, O Krishna, chastiser of the wicked, we are being harassed by hunger, and you should do something about it.
Krishna, thinking and smiling, nodding his head.
Please go to the sacrificial arena where the group of Brahmanas learned in the Vedic injunctions are now performing the Angirasa sacrifice to gain promotion to heaven. When you go there, my dear cowherd boys, simply request some food. Declare them the name of my elder brother, the Supreme Lord Balarama, and also my name, and explain that you have been sent by us.
Thus instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cowherd boys went there. Brahmanas are busy preparing for the fire sacrifice. Gopas pay obeisances to Brahmanas.
O earthly gods, please hear us.
We cowherd boys are executing the orders of Krishna, and we have been sent here by Balarama.
Lord Rama and Lord Achyuta are tending their cows. Not far from here, they are hungry and want you to give them some of your food.
Therefore, O Brahmanas, O best of knowers of religion, if you have faith, please give some food to them.
Brahmanas gesturing, go away, go away. The cowherd boys returned disappointed to Krishna and Rama and reported this to them. Hearing what had happened, Krishna simply laughed.
This time, go, tell the wives of Brahmanas that I have come here with Lord Sankarsana. They will certainly give you all the food you want, for they are most affectionate towards me, and indeed, with their intelligence reside in me alone.
The cowherd boys then went to the house where the Brahmanas' wives were staying. There, the boys saw those chaste ladies sitting, nicely decorated with fine ornaments. Bowing down to the Brahmana ladies, the boys addressed them in all humility.
Obeisances unto you, O wives of the learned Brahmanas, kindly hear our words. We have been sent here by Lord Krishna, who is passing by not far from here.
He has come a long way with the cowherd boys and Lord Balarama tending the cows. Now he is hungry, so some food should be given for him and his companions.
The wives of the Brahmanas at once stood up, and thus, as soon as they heard that he had come, they became very excited. Taking along in large vessels the 4 kinds of foods full of fine tastes and aromas, all the ladies went forth to meet their beloved, just as rivers flow towards the sea. Although their husbands, brothers, sons, and other relatives tried to forbid them from going, they did not pay heed and ran to where Krishna was.
Welcome, O most fortunate ladies. Please sit down and make yourselves comfortable. What can I do for you? That you have come here to see me is most appropriate. Certainly, expert personalities who can see their own true interest render unmotivated and uninterrupted devotional service directly unto me, for I am most dear to the soul. You should thus return to the sacrificial arena, because your husbands, the learned Brahmanas, are householders and need your assistance to finish their respective sacrifices.
Brahmin wives are awestruck and looking at Krishna, lovingly smiling.
Oh, Almighty One, please do not speak such cruel words.
Rather, you should fulfill your promise that you always reciprocate with your devotees in kind Krishna.
Now that we have attained your lotus feet, we simply wish to remain here in the forest so we may carry upon our heads the garlands of tulsi leaves that fall from your lotus feet.
Krishna, we are ready to give up all material relationships.
Our husbands, fathers, sons, brothers, other relatives, and friends will no longer take us back. And how could anyone else be willing to give us shelter?
Therefore, since we have thrown ourselves at your lotus feet and have no other destination, please, O chastiser of enemies, grant our desire.
rest assured that your husbands will not be inimical toward you, nor will your fathers, brothers, sons, other relatives, or the general populace. I will personally advise them of the situation. Indeed, even the demigods will express their approval. For you to remain in my bodily association would certainly not please people in this world, nor would it be the best way for you to increase your love for me. Rather, you should fix your minds on me, and very soon you will achieve me. It is by hearing about me, seeing my deity form, meditating upon me, and chanting my names and glories that love for me develops, not by physical proximity. Therefore, please go back to your homes.
Brahmin wives reluctantly left Krishna and walked towards home. The Brahmanas then came to their senses and began to feel great remorse.
We have sinned, for we have denied the request of the two lords of the universe, who have deceptively appeared as ordinary human beings.
To hell with our threefold birth, vow of celibacy and extensive learning.
To hell with our aristocratic background and our expertise in the rituals of sacrifice. These are all condemned because we are inimical to the transcendental personality of Godhead.
As Brahmanas, we are supposed to be the spiritual masters of all classes of men, yet we have been bewildered about our own real interests.
Just see the unlimited love these women have developed for Lord Krishna, the spiritual master of the entire universe. This love has broken for them the very bonds of death, their attachment to family life.
These women have never undergone the purificatory rites of the twice born classes, nor have they lived as brahmacharis in the ashram of a spiritual master, nor have they executed austerities, speculated on the nature of the self, followed the formalities of cleanliness, or engaged in pious rituals.
Nevertheless, they have firm devotion for Lord Krishna, whose glories are chanted by the exalted hymns of the Vedas, and who is the supreme master of all masters of mystic power.
We, on the other hand, have no such devotion for the Lord, although we have executed all these processes.
Thus, reflecting on the sin they had committed by neglecting Lord Krishna, they became very eager to see him. But being afraid of King Kamsa, they did not dare go to Vraja.
Autumn night. Moon is bright red and shiny. Lotus flowers are blooming. Krishna starts to play flute in the Brindavan. The young women of Brindavana heard Krishna's flute song, which arouses romantic feelings. Their minds were captivated by the Lord. Some of the gopis were milking cows when they heard Krishna's flute. They stopped milking and went off to meet him. Some gopis were boiling the milk on the stove. They left milk curdling on the stove. Some gopis were making rotis, baking cakes, and they all left rotis and cakes burning in the oven. Some gopis were getting dressed. Some gopis were feeding milk to their infants. Some gopis were serving food to their husbands, but they all gave up these duties and went to meet Krishna. Some gopis were eating their evening meals. Some gopis were washing themselves. Some gopis were putting on cosmetics or applying kajala to their eyes. But all the gopis stopped these activities at once, and though their clothes and ornaments were in complete disarray, rushed off to Krishna. Their husbands, fathers, brothers, and other relatives tried to stop them, but gopis were so enchanted by the sound of his flute, they refused to turn back. Some of the gopis, however, could not manage to get out of their houses, and instead they remained home with eyes closed, meditating upon him in pure love. Seeing that the girls of Vraja had arrived, Lord Krishna greeted them with charming words that bewildered their minds.
Oh, most fortunate ladies, welcome. What may I do to please you? Is everything well in Vraja? Please tell me the reason for your coming here. This night is quite frightening, and frightening creatures are lurking about. Return to Vraja, splendid wasted girls. This is not a proper place for women. Not finding you at home, and your mothers, fathers, sons, brothers, and husbands are certainly searching for you. Don't cause anxiety for your family members. Now you have seen this Vrindavana forest full of flowers and resplendent with the light of the full moon. You have seen the beauty of the trees and their leaves trembling in the gentle breeze coming from the Yamuna. So now, go back to the coward village. Don't delay. O chaste ladies, serve your husbands and give milk to your crying babies and calves. I know you have come here with great love for me, but it's your highest duty to serve your husbands, babies, and families. Leaving your husbands to come to me would be condemned as adulterous affairs are always condemned. Such women are barred from heaven as well.
During all this while, listening to his words, gopis are actually becoming sadder and sadder, angrier and angrier also. Their heads hanging down and their heavy, sorrowful breathing drying up their reddened lips. The gopis scratched the ground with their toes. Tears flowed from their eyes, carrying their kajala and washing away the vermilion smeared on their breasts. Thus they stood silently bearing the burden of their unhappiness. O all-powerful one, you should not speak in this cruel way. Do not reject us, who have renounced all material enjoyment to render devotional service to your lotus feet. Reciprocate with us, O stubborn one.
Our dear Krishna, as an expert in religion, You have advised us that the proper religious duty for women is to faithfully serve their husbands, children, and other relatives. We agree that this principle is valid, but actually, this service should be rendered to you. After all, O Lord, you are the dearmost friend of all embodied soul. You are their most intimate relative.
What use do we have for this husband, children, and relatives of ours who simply give us the trouble? Therefore, O Supreme Controller, grant us your mercy. O lotus eyed one, please do not cut down our long cherished hope to have your association.
Until today, our minds were absorbed in household affairs, but you easily stole both our minds and our hands away from our housework. Now, we won't move one step away from your lotus feet. How can we go back to Vraja? What would we do there?
Dear Krishna, please pour the nectar of your lips upon the fire within our hearts, a fire you ignited with your smile glances and the sweet song of your flute.
If you do not, we will consign our bodies to the fire of separation from you. Please show us mercy. To approach your lotus feet, we abandoned our families and homes, and we have no desire other than to serve you. Our hearts are burning with intense desires generated by your beautiful smiling glances. O jewel among men, please make us your maid servants. Dear Krishna, what woman in all the three worlds wouldn't deviate from religious behavior when bewildered by the sweet, drawn-out melody of your flute?
Sri Krishna went with the gopis to the bank of the Yamuna, where the sand was cooling and the wind enlivened by the river's waves bore the fragrance of lotuses. There, Krishna threw his arms around the gopis and embraced them.
धीरसमीरे यमुना तीरे वसति वने वनमाली धीरसमीरे यमुना तीरे वसति वने वनमाली धीरसमीरे यमुना वसति वने वनमाली धीरसमीरे यमुना तीरे वसति वने वनमाली धीरसमीरे तीरे वसति वने वनमाली नाम समेतं कृतसङ्केतं वादयते मृदुवेणुं बहुमनुतेन नुतेतनुसङ्गत पवनचलितमपि बहुमनुतेन नुतेतनुसङ्गत पवनचलितमपि बहुमनुतेन नुतेतनुसङ्गत पवनचलितमपि धीरसमीरे यमुना तीरे वसति वने वनमाली धीरसमीरे यमुना तीरे वसति वने चन्दन चर्चित नीलकलेबर पीतवसन वनमाली 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 केलि चलन्मणि कुण्डलमण्डित गण्डयुग स्मितशाली केलि चलन्मणि कुण्डलमण्डित गण्डयुग स्मितशाली हरिमुग्धवधूनिकरे विलासिनि विलसति केलि परे हरिमुग्धवधूनिकरे विलासिनि विलसति केलि परे करतलताल तरल बलयामणि कलितकल स्वनवंशे करतलताल तरल बलयामणि कलितकल स्वनवंशे रासरसे सह नृत्यपरा हरिनामयुवती प्रशंसे हरिमुग्धवधूनिकरे विलासिनि विलसति केलि परे
Thank you, Mataji. That was a scintillating performance. Agree, everyone? you took us to Vrajdham, took us to Vrindavan. Thank you so much. Thank you all. All the performers did a wonderful performance. It was, short notice. They really did a great job. They live in all different parts of Hyderabad, and despite that, they did some online meetings and online practice, and I think they just did 1 or 2 physical performances. So all glories to the team leaders, Anangasundari Mataji, Suma Mataji, each and every performer did a wonderful job. Thank you very much. Suma Mataji, Anangasundari Mataji, please. So this is Suma Mataji, Anangasundari Mataji. They are the leaders for this drama. So wonderful, Mataji, so wonderful. So we'll move on to our next topic. We are a little behind the schedule, but I think we'll do fine. So I invite our next topic is a katha by Her Grace Janava Devi Dasi. Mataji, my humble request to please, Krishnaveni Mataji, can you please escort her? And I invite Champakalata Devi Dasi, one of my dear friends, my dear Sakhis, to introduce Janava Mataji. She was instrumental in bringing Janava Mataji, or rather inviting with all the love that she is here. This is the first time I think we met Janava Mataji. Very, very grateful, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranams to everyone. So after a scintillating performance by Mathajis, we will move on to Her Grace Janava Mataji's lecture on power of bhakti or potency of bhakti. Actually, Janava Mataji doesn't need any introduction, but however, to some new people here, Janava Mataji is from Pune. She is one of the senior most disciples of His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj. And she has trained a lot of people both at Pune and Mumbai. And she has done a lot of congregational preaching, due to which her congregation has expanded into a temple, Radha Kunj Bihari. And she is an expert in deity worship. She's been doing it for the last 30 years and more. And she's been training so many Matajis in it. And she trains a lot of people. She counsels, hundreds of people, more than 2,000 people she has counseled so far. And she has also done some, preaching in places like Russia. And, she's a gem of a person. She's a mother to many. She's an inspiration to me too. And there's a lot to say about her. I mean, she conducts a lot of Julan Yatras, festivals, Pushpa Abhishek at her home, and she regularly conducts the deity worship seminars. And under her guidance, many counselees have become counselors. So she believes in making leaders in the society, Krishna conscious leaders, I mean to say. And in the Bhagavatam, we have heard Bhagavad Vidha, Tirthi Kurvanti Tirthani. In fact, pure devotees, wherever they go, they carry Lord in the heart. That's why they are verily places of pilgrimages themselves. So by Mataji's Agaman over here in Bhagyanagar, actually Hyderabad is known as Bhagyanagar originally. So she's bringing Bhagya to all of us. And let us hear more from Janava Devi Dasi. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Give me the laptop.
Mataji? Yeah, Mataji. Mataji, may I?
येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजाताः सहगना रघुनाथान्विता सीतानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा। Hyderabad amongst all of you. Thanks to Her Grace Champaglata Mataji. She just called up and somehow I agreed. I have traveled only after 4 years because of this COVID. And I met Her Grace Nitai Sevini Mataji in Vada and she was inviting me to Visakhapatnam and I said, Mataji, I'm still not traveling. And soon after that, now you have invited me and I'm here. I'm surprised at myself that I'm here. But it is the power of bhakti. So it is the power of bhakti of all of you that you pulled me here. I probably know just 3 to 4 devotees here in Hyderabad. But I know it's a very nice congregation. Actually, Vaishnavas are very nice everywhere. So wherever there are Vaishnavas, there is Krishna. Krishna says, Yatra Gayanti Mad Bhakta Tatra Tishtami Narada. So wherever my devotees chant my holy name, I am present there. So your love and your bhakti has so much power. It has pulled Radheshyam Prabhuji to Hyderabad. And Radha Mataji has come from Los Angeles. Sita Mataji has come from Bombay. And one small squirrel has come from Pune to see all of you. So the topic is such a beautiful topic, power of bhakti. So, can start. So, I'm referring to Narad Bhakti Sutra. So, the first sutra is, Narad Muni says, Athato Bhaktim Vyakhyāsyama. Therefore, I will try to explain the process of devotional service. So, Srila Prabhupada, when he was inquired, asked, what is bhakti? Because when he was preaching in the West, they have never heard the word bhakti. So, normally we would say bhakti is devotion. Prabhupada said bhakti is devotional service. So he says, I will try to explain the process of devotional service. So in this book, there are different authoritative scriptures and seers who have defined bhakti in different ways. So Vyasadeva Ji, the son of Parasar Muni, says, bhakti is fond attachment for worshipping the Lord in various ways. So today we saw such a beautiful cultural program. Isn't this part of bhakti? Dance, drama, singing, fun. I was thinking it should go on like this for a long time. So it was very nice. And Puja Dishva Anuraga Iti Parashraya. So we should do puja and anurag. So puja should be done with anurag. Like somebody said, there are many people in Hyderabad, they have their own worship. So they are doing puja. But it should have some anurag. It should be attachment. So if we have attachment like the South Indian Brahmana who wanted to offer sweet rice, but he was very poor. But he had attachment to the Lord, he wanted to offer something. So in his meditation, he was collecting the finest rice, the good quality milk, good kesar, and making the whole preparation of sweet rice, and in his mind he was offering it. So the puja was there, but along with the puja there was anurag, there was attachment. Then Garga Muni says, Katha Dishva iti Gargaha. Bhakti is fondness for narrations about the Lord, by the Lord, and so on. So Prabhupada gave us everything, no? His Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita by the Lord. Gita is spoken by the Lord, Bhagavatam is about the Lord. So Narad Muni himself, he heard the narrations of the Lord from the Bhakti Vedantists, 4 months of Chaturmas. Now Chaturmas is going on, this is the 3rd month. So in these 4 months, Narad Muni heard so much from the Bhakti Vedantists that his heart got fully cleansed. So that's how we should also be hearing about the Supreme Lord, by the Lord, about the Lord. So all scriptures that we have, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, we should I know that there's a good Sangha here, and all the time there are online classes and you're all tuned to all these 3 scriptures. And then Sandilya Muni says, Ata Atma Rati Avirodheneti Sandilyaha. He says the bhakti results from one's removing all obstructions to taking pleasure in the Supreme Self. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Matchitta Matgat Prana, Bodhayanta Karasparam, Kathayantas Chamam Nityam, Tushyanti Cha Ramanti Cha. And then Bhakti Vinod Thakur says, the pleasures that I get in performing, in spite of so many obstacles, the obstacles that come in my path of devotional service are the source of greatest joy for me. Srila Prabhupada also in his lifetime, it was not an easy journey for Prabhupada. We all know Prabhupada's life history, without any money, begging Sumati Murarji, begging others to help him go across, travel to the West. It was not easy. And in the West also, when he reached Boston, he was looking right, left, where should I go? I don't know where to go. I don't know anyone in this country except one Mr. Agarwal. So he was confused. And then it seems that after being there for a few days, he would come to the pier where the ships were docked, and he would inquire from them, when is the next ship sailing back to India? So there's a Swamiji, Tuesday ko ja raha hai ek aur ship. Acha theek hai, main wapas aata hu. Means he thought, I'm not doing anything, nothing is happening, so let me go back to India. I can do so much more there. But then he would feel guilty that my spiritual master has sent me on a mission. I have come here to do something, but time is keeping it away, so I should be patient. And then after 15 days, the ship has gone back to India. He didn't come. Then again, another week later, he'll come and say, when is the next ship going? Because nothing is happening in Boston. Then he said, Swamiji, abhi to chala gaya hai. It just went. You're late. Okay, now come next week. Then he would wait, but Swamiji would not turn up the next week. Then again he would come. So he says, आप बार बार आते हो, ship चला जाता है India. He says, क्या करूँ? I'm bound to my spiritual master's instructions. Though I feel like going back, but I can't because I'm bound. I want to do something for my master. So this is the way we remove the obstructions. There are challenges. I mean, all of us here must be having so many challenges in family life. But somehow we have to overcome them. And we should overcome them, and we should struggle to overcome them. And that struggle is very pleasing to the Lord. Next. The Narad Muni says, Naradastu tat arpita khila charata tat vishmane parama vyakuleti. Narad says, bhakti consists of offering one's every act to the Supreme Lord and feeling extreme distress in forgetting Him. So every act, whatever we do, yad karosi, yad ashnasi, yad juhosi dadasi, yad tapasyasi kurushvatad arpanam. So whatever you do, everything that you do, you offer it to Krishna. So we are not in the stage of doing everything for Krishna, but the first step is whatever you do, you offer Krishna. So I'm going to cook dosa for my children, I will offer to Krishna. But if Krishna wants gulab jamun and my children don't want it and my husband doesn't want it, then we will not cook gulab jamun. Because we are doing what is needed for my family, but I will offer to Krishna. So the first step. Then later on you say, but I don't care if my husband, children don't have gulab jamun. Krishna likes it, so I should offer it to him. But that is a higher stage of realization. So asti evam evam. Bhakti is in fact correctly described in each of these ways. So none of them are wrong. All of them are right. And Narad says, the son of Brahma says, Bhakti is its own fruit. So how is Bhakti's own fruit? That means we don't have to depend on the other processes of karma, jnana, yoga. Because if they are devoid of bhakti, then it is not pleasing to Krishna. If they are connected to bhakti, see in bhakti also we need jnana. What is Bhagavad Gita? It's jnana. We are learning, but we are connecting it to Krishna. We are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, we are connecting it to Krishna. Chaitanya Charitamrita is all about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So bhakti is its own fruit. And it is the fruit of all endeavor. That means whatever we do, our occupational duties also should lead us to bhakti. So it is more than a process leading to a result. You know, all of us know it is our constitutional position. Jivera Swarup Hoy, Krishnera Nitya Das. It's our constitutional position. It is there inherent in every living being. Just like a child learning to walk. The walking capacity is there in the child, but we just make the child hold the child's hand, try to make him walk step by step. It's already there, you're not doing anything great. So Prabhupada gives the example of a mango. So mango is relishable in the raw stage, mango is relishable in the ripe stage also. The sweetness is there in mango, the khattapan is there in the mango. It's relishable in all stages. So even in the beginning stage of bhakti, it comes in the realm of love of God, if it is pleasing to Krishna. And even if we lack in something, sometimes we say, no, I have no skills, I have no talent. I was staying in the house of Usha Mataji and she was telling me that I was thinking, I can't contribute anything to Sakhi Sanga. I don't have this skill, I don't have this talent. But when they told me that one Mataji, for her it was one Mataji, Jana Mataji is coming from Pune, we need someone to host her. She said, I put up my hand. I can host her. So that's hosting is also a skill. You are serving a Vaishnava. Vaishnav Seva, Nam Ruchi, Jiva Daya. So she's serving me so nicely since last night. I can experience her love through her hospitality. So all of us have something to contribute. So we can contribute man, tan, dhan. Your mind, your wealth, your resources, and your bodily seva, and your wealth. So it is a check to desire, not to satisfy desire. So bhakti is not to satisfy our desire. मुझे अच्छा लगता है इसलिए मैं भक्ति करती हूँ. मुझे अच्छा लगता है तो मैं मंदिर आती हूँ. मुझे प्रसाद अच्छा लगता है. It is not for our desire. भगवान को अच्छा लगता है जब हम उनके सामने आते हैं, दर्शन करते हैं. तो I am going for the Lord's pleasure. So whatever we do, we are doing it for the Lord's pleasure. So we are doing chanting, we are doing hearing. So bhakti is of course dependent on that, but it's not solely dependent on that. It is dependent more on the Lord's mercy. अभी अगले महीने दामोदर लीला आ रही है. In Damodar Leela we know the rope that Yashoda Maya ties around Krishna's waist is always 2 fingers short. And what are the 2 fingers representing? Mercy and endeavor. So first endeavor, then mercy. तो हमारा प्रयास है, हम मेहनत करते हैं और कृष्णा प्रसन्न हो जाते हैं. लेकिन मेहनत सब करते हैं, लेकिन whomever Krishna chooses, he will get Krishna's mercy. But we should not think, see this flower seller in Vrindavan, everything she has, she's offering to Krishna. She has a flower, she has a basket full of fruits. She's giving more than Krishna can hold in his 2 little hands. But she says, beta, take this, take this, take this. Everything she has, she offers. Even in Govardhan Leela, the Brijvasis, they just cook baskets of food stuff and they offer it to Govardhan. But Govardhan is not satisfied. What he says? Aniyor, Aniyor, give me more, give me more. So then whatever they go back, jo bhi ghar mein hai, they are offering everything to Krishna. So that it means everything that you have, you should offer and feel extreme distress. Our Guru Maharaj used to take us to Vrindavan, Barsana, and we used to visit the homes of some Brijvasis, and they would say कि अगर हमारे घर में एक दिन साधु नहीं आते हैं तो we feel very distressful. यानी कि what the Brijvasis do when they get up in the morning with their household chores, they cook lot of chapatis that they keep. So sadhus keep mending, and there are so many sadhus in Vrindavan. Then go puja, they give the cows. The first rotis they give the cows. And she says, we make so many because many sadhus come from Madhukari. At the end of the day, our rotis must be over. If they don't get over, we feel very distressful. हमने क्या पाप किया है कि आज मेरी रोटी बच गई है. कोई साधु मेरे घर नहीं आया है. They feel distressed. What we feel? रोटी बच गई तो कल उसको तोड़ के इसकी सब्जी बना देंगे. उसका खाकड़ा बना देंगे. उसका पापड़ बना देंगे ना. We have so many ways to use up the rotis. चलो चलो अच्छा हो गया, रोटी बच गई, कल मैं बहुत थक गई हूँ, I will use this old rotis. But they should feel distress. And I know so many of us also feel distress when there's a festival and we are contaminated. We say, oh, it's Janmashtami and I can't do bhoga, I can't do this seva, now I'm off the altar. So that should be our intensity. We should feel distressed if we can't serve the Lord. Then he says, what are the symptoms? Okay, these are all the definition of bhakti, but what are the symptoms of one who has achieved bhakti? So, Satva Asmin Parama Prema Rupa. Devotional service manifests as the most elevated, pure love for God. Such a beautiful pastime we had just now of the Brahmanas who refused food to the Lord, but the Brahmana Patni, they got the mercy of the Lord. So it's a most elevated, pure love for God. In fact, the Lord writes to the gopis that I can never repay your debt. Let your love itself be a repayment. You know, अपना कर्जा अपने आप ही चुका लो. मैं आपका कर्जा नहीं चुका सकता because such unconditional love for me. So we are far from that stage. And this Amrita Sarupacha, this pure love of God is eternal. That means these gopis, they are not by chance taken birth in Vrindavan. They are eternal associates of the Lord, and the Lord to enhance his Leela. You know, when the king comes, when the prime minister comes, his entourage comes with him. There are 5 cars in front and 5 cars behind, and you know. So they are eternal associates of the Lord. And then what happens to them? He says, Yal labdhva puman siddhi siddho bhavati amrito bhavati tripto bhavati. So upon achieving that stage of transcendental devotional service in pure love of God, a person becomes perfect, immortal, and peaceful. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that Janma karma chame divyam evam yoveti tatvata tyakta deham punarjanma naiti mam eti su Arjuna. So while living in this body also you can become immortal. If you have reached the perfectional stage, so it's not that after that, something thereafter. Right now you can feel that liberated from material bondage. And tripto bhavati, you are very peaceful. Very peaceful means we don't get agitated so easily. So some brahmanas, we see that sukh hai, dukh hai, paisa hai, nahi hai, yash hai, nahi hai. They remain peaceful, considering that everything will come and everything will go. Matra spashastu kaunteya shitoshta sukha dukhada agama paino nityas tam stitikshasva bharata. The summer will come, summer will go, winter will come, winter will go. The happiness will come, happiness will go. This little incident about a king who's always in a mode of passion, Rajogun, because they are waging wars, invading countries. Sometimes they win, sometimes they lose. So when they win, everybody glorifies them. Samrat ki jai ho, and they feel very happy and confident and proud. But this king lost one battle and he was very dejected and he was hanging his shoulders. And his minister comes and gives him a ring. And there are 4 words on the ring. This too shall pass. Why are you so grieving? You know, don't be so sad. This too shall pass. The night has come. Don't be so afraid of darkness. Few hours and the sun's rays will be there. And then when the king, then he feels little hope-giving. And then in a few months again he wages a war and he just wins. And then very elated, there I won, I made it. Then the minister says, Samrat ji, apka ring pado. This too shall pass. So don't be too attached to happiness, don't be too attached to distress. Be peaceful, be equanimous. Okay, then, okay. Jat prapya na kinchid vanchati na shochati na dveshti na ramate notsahi bhavati. So a person engaged in such pure devotional service neither desires anything for sense gratification, nor laments for any loss, nor hates anything, nor enjoys anything on his personal account, nor becomes very enthusiastic in material activity. So I gave the example of Tukaram Maharaj, because we are from Pune, and Tukaram Maharaj is a saint born in Dehu Road in Pune, and we often go for picnics to Dehu Road. So Tukaram Maharaj has many, many sweet pastimes and stories. So he's one personality, na vanchati, na shochati, na dveshati, na ramate, notsai bhavati. He's not attracted by sense gratification. When Shivaji Maharaj heard of his glories, he sent his ministers and to honor Tukaram, and he sent gifts for his whole family, his wife, his children, Kanjivaram sari, all of you are wearing nice saris today, colorful saris. And his wife, I mean, he never earned enough money to give her, and children, good clothes for the children. And he was not at home, and the wife accepted it. And when he came, he says, "What are you wearing? From where did you get this sari? And what are the children wearing?" So she said, "Shivaji Maharaj has sent all these gifts." He says, "No, we have to return these gifts. I don't want to be glorified. I don't want any gifts from the, the king." And then he doesn't lament for any loss. He used to write abhangs, 2-line, 4-line, beautiful verses in glorification of the Lord. And there was a Brahmana Kavi there. He was very jealous and envious of Tukaram. He said, "Why this Tukaram is getting all, glories? People are singing his abhangs." In those days, people would, when they were hearing more than, reading and writing. So when they would hear, they would memorize. And while they are working in the farm, they would be singing his abhangs. So he got so angry when Tukaram was not at home. He sent his men and he said, "Get all the pothis from his house. Tell his wife to give Tukaram Maharaj's abhangs." So they were written very beautifully, and there was a big pothi. So they went, they took the pothi, and he ordered that put it in Indriyani river. There was a river close by. So they immersed that whole pothi in Indriyani river. And when Tukaram Maharaj came, his wife told him, and he was like, "Really?" And he went at the banks of Indriyani river, and he never cursed him. Our first instance will be, what does he think of himself? And the whole village came to know. And they said, Tukaram, don't worry. All of us know them by heart. And we'll start writing and we can make it again. But he didn't want that glory. He said, "I had written not for my glory, to make a book and to print it and to get name and fame. It was coming spontaneously from my heart, and I wrote in glorification of the Lord. And the Lord heard it, and that's enough for me." But in his heart, he was a little, little sad. So, and his wife, we hear of Avali being little not so, appreciative of Tukaram Maharaj's activities. Though in her heart, she loved him very much. So she saw that Tukaram Maharaj is not eating. He fasted for 14 days at the banks of Indrayani river. And there's a small temple, if you go there, it's called Gatha Mandir. So she fasted, he fasted, she fasted at the children. All of them were sitting there for 14 days. And look at the Lord, how he reciprocates with the devotees. After 14 days on Ekadasi day, the whole Gatha, Indrayani, goddess of that river Indrayani, she came with the whole Gatha in her hand, which was unspoilt, and they gave the whole Gatha back. And all the villagers clapped in ecstasy, like you are feeling ecstasy. And this, Tukaram, your Gatha has come back. And then they opened it and everything was just as it was. So you can't cheat a pure devotee. You can't hurt a pure devotee. But he was, he was not very enthusiastic. He was happy, but not that, "Oh, see now, I'll show him, He was not also thinking the Lord has given me so much mercy." And so many stories about him. He went to sell some, his wife forced him to buy some things and do some trading. He sold that and he was coming home with other merchants. On the way, he met a Brahmana who was ostracized from the kingdom, and he was crying in the jungle. So when Tukaram Maharaj came to know, he says, "What is the problem?" So the Brahmana said, "I owed 200 rupees, which I did not pay back in time." So Tukaram Maharaj immediately took out whatever he earned and gave it to the Brahmana. He said, "Go and pay back the debt." And then he thought, when I go home, my wife is going to beat me now. What am I going to give her? But the Lord intervened, and the Lord took, he disguised himself as Tukaram and said, "I've come home." She said, "How was the business?" "Very good, very good. Here's the money." And he gave her the money. And Tukaram's friends who were merchants who had gone with him, they had actually seen him giving the money and they thought he's the biggest fool. And they told her, your husband has no money left, he's distributed all the money. But she says, no, he came and gave me the money back. Then she also realized, in many instances, the Lord himself, would intervene in his life, disguise himself as Tukaram and do whatever was necessary to stabilize him. Krishna says, Yoga kshemam vahamyaham. I provide what you lack and I preserve what you have. So making sure you advance and never fall back. So Krishna took it upon himself. And once he was feeling very much anguish. Yas jnatva mato bhavati, stabdo bhavati, atma ramo bhavati. One who understands perfectly the process of devotional service in love of Godhead becomes intoxicated in his discharge. Sometimes he becomes stunned in ecstasy and thus enjoys his whole self being engaged in the service of the Supreme Self. So Tukaram Maharaj would be giving lectures, and when he was giving lectures in a big audience, this may be half the audience, that is, 700, 800 people would come to hear him. Actually much deep in ecstasy, Atma Ramo Bhavati, Stabdo Bhavati. He would be so much in ecstasy that he would close his eyes and he would keep talking. People were getting tired because we are conditioned souls. We cannot sit for so long to hear a class, 5 hours, 6 hours. So if he starts at 6:37, right up to 10:30, 11 in the night, he's, deeply absorbed. In between he will do kirtan. And then when he opened his eyes finally, it was late night, and all had gone but one man. So he said, he paid obeisances to him. He said, you're really great. I can see that I overspoke and people have all left. So I really appreciate that you are waiting till the end. He said, Maharaj ji, आप जो कंबल पर बैठे हैं वो कंबल मेरा है. मुझे कंबल घर में लेके जाना है. I'm feeling cold. So, we are not in that mood to sit for so many hours. But Tukaram Maharaj was always, whenever any problem would come, he would go to Rukmini Vitthal Mandir, do the deity worship, do bhajan, kirtan, and absorb himself. And we know his family life was not so good, because obviously when he is so absorbed in kirtan and bhajan, he cannot give that time and attention to his wife and children. So, but his wife had one good quality, she would always serve him. She would never eat food till she has served him. Every day she would walk up the mountains. There are 2-3 mountains in Dehu Road. And he would choose any mountain and go up. And then she would stand down and think, where is this man today? This one, this and this. So you know how she would recognize? She would put her ears at the base of the mountain. From whichever mountain came the sound of the music and his bhajans, and she would say, oh, Vitthal, Vitthal, Vithala. Oh, he's here. So then she would take roti and some good and aloo ki sabji and feed him and then come down. This was her love for her husband, her devotion. And then, so coming back to our sampradaya now, Sanatana Goswami says, so what is bhakti? Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam rakshishyatiti vishvaso goptritve varanam tata atma nikshepa karpanya shadvida sharanagati. So ultimate of bhakti is sharanagati. We have the 9 processes as mentioned by Prahlad Maharaj in Bhagavatam. So it starts with Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Archanam, Vandanam, Padasevanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam and Atma Nivedanam. So Atma Nivedana means Sharanagati, as Bali Maharaj through his example showed us. What is Sharanagati? So Anukulyasya Sankalpa. What is Anukul? Accept things that are favorable in performing bhakti. What is favorable for me? I should do it. And Pratikulyasya Varjanam. So give up things that are pratikul. This is not good for me, so I should not use it. This thing is coming as a hindrance to my bhakti. Our Guru Maharaj, if you have read his book Journey Home, he was very fond of that mouth organ, harmonica, and then he thought at some time I have to give it up. So he gave it up. Of course now he will sing very beautifully on the harmonium, but at a particular time whatever needed to be accepted, he accepted that. Whatever needed to be given up, he gave up, no matter how attached he was. So even in our lives, if we are very attached to something but it's coming in our way, sometimes our profession, sometimes our Sangha, so we have to see what is good for us and what is not good for us. Rakshishyatiti vishwaso. Always have faith that God will protect me. Bhagwan meri raksha karenge. In Tukaram Maharaj's life also, there were many, he was also a money lender at some stage of his life, and many people owed him a lot of money. So what he did, once he had gone to the top of a mountain, for 14 days he fasted. And his Kanoba, his brother, was searching him everywhere. And finally he went to the hill and he found his brothers. But what he saw from far, he saw that my brother, the Supreme Lord, is actually embracing my brother. And he got that darshan. He says, really? And he was so stunned, he fell down. And then he told Tukaram that, please come home after the darshan disappeared, the Lord disappeared. And then Tukaram Maharaj said that, I want to absorb myself more and more in bhakti. So I have decided that all the people who owe me money, I have the documents, promissory notes, I want to just throw them away. He said, what are you talking? That's our sustenance. You don't want it, you don't take, but I want it because I have to support my family. So Tukaram Maharaj said, go and bring them from home. So he brought all the promissory notes, he divided them into two parts. He said, this is yours, this is mine, you take yours, but I will immerse mine because I know that God will protect me. Yoga Kshema Mahamyam. So they said, no, it's a person Bhagavat, walking, talking Bhagavat. Some of us give lectures, but when it comes to personal things, we are dependent so much on our money, our assets, and we hang on to them. But the pure devotee can easily give them up. So, then we know that the Goptritve Varanam Tatha. What is Goptritve Varanam Tatha? That Krishna is my guardian and master. Krishna Mata, Krishna Pita, Krishna Dhanna Pran. So Krishna will take care no matter what happens. We often hear devotees also saying, Krishna will take care, Krishna will take care. And Krishna does take care. In small, small ways, which we can't even say now on the stage. But the moment you want to do something, somebody comes to help you. The moment you desire to have something and you wonder how it will happen, and it just comes your way. So Krishna is acting behind the scenes and giving. We have a drama here, and somebody suddenly gets a mace in his hand. From where did it come? Somebody behind was pushing it in his hand. So same way, Krishna acts through his internal energy to take care of his devotees. Then, so Atma Nikshepa, Krishna will take care, and Sadvida Sharanagati. So the last step is Sharanagati, fully surrender. Surrender means, Krishna, whatever you want, I'm ready to do. Not what I want you do for me, but what you want, whatever pleases you, my Lord, I'm ready to offer all my body, mind, intelligence. Then in the Narad Pancharatra, Sarvopadhi Vinirmuktam Tat Paratvena Nirmalam Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhaktir Uchyate. So the topmost bhakti is that when we serve Rishikena, with what? With our Rishik, with our senses, we serve the master of senses. That means we employ all our senses in the devotional service of the Lord. But for that we need two important things. One must be purified. Sarva Upadhi Vinirmuktam. All our upadhis. I can't do it. Like Mataji said, I'm a lady. I can't do it. I'm a businessman. How can I go and distribute books on the road? How can I collect money like that? I can't do it. So Sarva Upadhis. We have so many upadhis. I'm a woman, I'm a man, I'm a managing director of a company, or whatever, And senses should be engaged only in service of the Lord, who is the master of our senses. All our senses. Ambrish Maharaj engaged all his senses in service of the Lord. With his mouth, he would do Shravanam, Kirtanam. With his ears, he would do Shravanam. With his mouth, he would do Kirtanam. He was glorifying with his tongue, he was glorifying the Lord. With his sense of smell, he was smelling the tulsi offered to the Lord, the flowers offered to the Lord. With his legs, he was walking to the holy places. With his hands, he was cleansing the temple. With his whole body and mind, he was serving Vaishnavas. So in this way, all our senses should be engaged in service of the Lord. And Rup Goswami says, Anya bilashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavritam anukulyena krishnanu shilanam bhaktir uchyate. The first class devotional service develops when one should be devoid of all material desires, fruitive actions, knowledge obtained by monastic philosophy, and the devotee must serve Krishna favorably as Krishna desires. So Sharanagati means as Krishna desires. And that is called Bhaktir Uttama. Topmost bhakti is, like they say, there are three classes of devotees. One is Kanishta Adhikari, then Madhyam Adhikari and Uttam Adhikari. And the disciple is also Kanisht, Madhyam and Uttam. So Kanisht will be Guru Maharaj's instruction is there, but he says, too difficult to follow. Madhyam, okay, Guru Maharaj is saying, I'll try to follow. But the Uttam disciple is one who knows the mood of spiritual master, and without him telling, he's willing to execute his instructions. So that is Bhakti Uttama, that is topmost Bhakti. When you know what is expected from you, from your master, from Krishna, and you perform that without any expectations. So it is said in the end, Bhakti Parishanu Bhavo Viraktir Anyatra Chaisha Trika Eka Kalaha Prapadya Manasya Yathashnata Shus Tushti Pushti Shud Apayo Nukhasam. So he says, when you perform bhakti, these things must happen, just like when you eat a meal. What happens when you eat a meal? Suppose you are very hungry and you go home and say, I'm hungry, there was no prasadam in Sakhi Sanga, go home, bhuk lagi hai. The first thing is that you get satisfaction of eating a food. And automatically the body is also getting nourished, right? And also there is some satiation. So एक भूख भी मिट जाती है, खुशी भी होती है. You feel happy, na, satisfied. At last my hunger is satisfied. Nutrition and mentally also I'm feeling happy to eat the food. So by doing bhakti, we get detachment, direct experience of Lord and devotion. So Janayati asu vairagnyam jnanam chayad ahitukam. So when we do bhakti, Vasudeva Bhagavati, bhakti yoga prayojita, janayati ashu vairagnyam jnanam chayad ahitukam. So when you do bhakti to Vasudev, then what happens? These three things happen automatically. So Gyan, Vairagya, all things develop automatically. You might say, क्यों मुझे इतना वैराग्य हो रहा है? क्यों मुझे, and I'm not so fond of good clothes or going to movies, going to malls for shopping, sitting in front of TV for hours together, engaging in prajalpa. Sometimes automatically, it happens. There's a true story of a man who was on a ship in Europe. He was traveling, and then he came to London, and on the ship there were some plants for sale, and he picked up one plant, and he brought that plant to him. He's a plant lover. And then he was serving that plant for many months, taking out the dried leaves, some weeds. And then for many months he was serving, and once he was on the road, and somehow he met some devotees, and they were doing book distribution, and they gave him a Bhagavad Gita. And in those days, at the last page of Bhagavad Gita, there was an address of the local center in abroad. Because otherwise you take a book and then you don't know how to follow it up, who will help you to understand the book. So he went, and then he met the devotees and started reading Gita, and then he saw that label there. So he went to Manor in London, and then he liked the devotees, he liked the ambience and the atmosphere of the temple, and they would serve him prasad as a guest. And then one morning, they invited him for a morning program, and then there was Tulsi Aarti. And then they were ambulating the Tulsi, worshipping the Tulsi. And he said, I think this is the same plant that I had picked up from the ship, which I am taking care of. So, and actually after that, when he was taking care of the plant, suddenly he felt that I don't like to have alcohol anymore. He stopped having alcohol. And then when meat and fish would come in front of him, he would say, I don't want to eat this. And he thought, why has this change come over me? No one told me not to have meat. No one told me not to have alcohol. But I just don't feel like having. So see, even indirectly you serve the Lord's devotee. Tulsi Maharani is a Vrinda Devi. She's a devotee of the Lord. See how much benefit he got. And then he called one devotee. He said, I have a plant, something similar. Can you come home and tell me what about this plant? So one devotee went to his house and said, oh, you are worshipping Tulsi Devi. So unknowingly, he was worshipping Tulsi Devi for so many months. And the benefit he got, Krishna attracted him. Krishna pulled him towards the devotees. So another story, real story, is one couple in Los Angeles somewhere. So this lady was having, the foreigners, the lady was having a guru whose name was Krishnamurti. She was a disciple of Krishnamurti and very dedicated to her master. And She was saying, my master's name is Krishnamurti, and she would repeat. And then, abroad, people are very fond of pets. So she had a pet dog. And she said, I want to keep my dog Krishna, so I will always remember my guru. So for them, a dog is not like a dog. He's more than a family member. They will keep him in their chair, in their bed. They sleep with the dog, and first thing in the morning, they will hug the dog. So one day, evening time, the dog strayed away from the house. And when the husband came home, she said, my Krishna has ran away. Just go take the torch and go and search him. So he went searching. He says, now I'm tired. Like, where will I go? He will come back. No, he might just get stray. So please go and search him. So he kept saying, Krishna, Krishna, where are you? Come back, Krishna, Krishna, calling very intensely. And some devotees were passing by. This happened in Amsterdam, yes. So when devotees were passing by, they said, who is this? We don't have that intensity to call out Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. They were coming from some Sankirtan. So he said, we have never called out like this on the roads, Krishna, Krishna. He says, well, whom are you searching? You're searching for Krishna. He says, yes, I'm searching for Krishna. So then they came to know that he's searching for his dog. So he says, if you're searching for Krishna, we know where Krishna is. So they brought him to the manor, and he saw the beautiful deity of Krishna. And he got so attracted. He said, oh, this is real? Then it's all Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And devotees are so expert. They know how to, hold on to a person, a guest, how to inspire him. Then they inspired him, they motivated him, he came regularly, and today he's a sannyasi in ISKCON, preaching. So this is the power of association. Now, how to achieve bhakti? So like I said, these are some 4 points. Tattu Vishya Tyagat Sanga Tyagascha. One achieves bhakti by giving up sense gratification and mundane association. Avyavrita Bhajanat. One achieves bhakti by worshipping the Lord ceaselessly. Lokepi Bhagavat Guna Shravana Kirtanat. Again, hearing and chanting about the Lord's special qualities, even while engaged in the ordinary activities of life in this world. So, all of us are grahasthas, we are doing our ordinary activities, but along with that, we include Krishna in our daily routine. We serve the deities, serve our family, and that's how we get advanced. And hearing and chanting, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, that should be always there. Then Mahat Sangas tu Durlabho Gamyo Mogascha. Of course, association of great souls. So association of great souls is rarely obtained, difficult to understand and infallible. So what is this association of great souls? It is said that Manusha Nam Sahasreshu in the Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter, that out of thousands and thousands of men who chant my name, a Mahatma Sudurlabha. So very difficult to get a pure Mahatma. So when we get such a association, we should not leave them. And when you say association is very difficult, but it is not impossible. Next. By mercy of Krishna, we get Guru. By mercy of Guru, we get Krishna. So Dhruv Maharaj went to the forest to do tapasya. Association of great soul is very rare. But that intensity the Lord saw, and immediately he sent his pure devotee, Narad Muni, to help Dhruva. Then Labhya te pi tat kripa yaiva. The associations of great souls can be attained only by Lord's mercy. So the Lord's mercy was there on Dhruv Maharaj, such a small child, taken such a big leap from palace to jungle. What a culture shock, So, but Krishna protected him by sending a pure devotee. So, tasmim stad janade bheda bhavat. One can attain bhakti either by association of the Lord's pure devotees or directly by the Lord's mercy, because the Lord and his pure devotees are non-different. So, Dhruv Maharaj got both. First he got Lord's devotees, and the Lord's devotee, what he did, Narad Muni, he gave him a mantra to chant, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. He chanted, he followed the mantra, he performed austerities, and soon he got Krishna's darshan. So in the end it is written, Tad eva sadhyatam, tad eva sadhyatam. So strive only for the association of pure devotees. So even as sadhakas, we should have this one pointed thing. I must have sadhu sang. It is said, साधु संग सर्व शास्त्र बोले, लव मात्रा साधु संग सर्व सिद्धि होए. So even a moment's association with pure devotees can open the doors of liberation. So we should hanker for sadhu sang, take that sadhu sang and take instructions. They say, no, if you go to a holy place and you just go for a dip, kaha ja rahe hai? Haridwar, Ganga Shnan karne. So yeah, no lekadana as. It's written in the Bhagavatam, I am not saying that. Little, Bhagavatam is extreme sometimes. So are you an ass or a donkey or a bull just going and taking a dip and coming out? When you go to Holy Dham, you should look for sadhu sangha because they will guide you. I know so many people who go to Vrindavan and they just look around Vrindavan, say kitni gandi jagah hai, Yamuna mein kitna gandagi hai, अरे monkey ने मेरा चश्मा ले लिया, मेरे जूते टूट गए, जूता गुम गया. So they are looking at a holiday. It's a holiday, चलो ठीक है होली धाम है, but कहाँ जाएंगे? चलो इस टाइम मथुरा जाते हैं, वृंदावन जाते हैं. So that's all that they get back. I give some classes online and one lady joined in from Delhi and she said that after she had a long association, and she said, now I know what is Vrindavan Dham. She said, you won't believe, every month from Delhi we go to Vrindavan and we just go to Bhagya Bihari, have lassi, pani puri, chaat, and see one or two temples. And now ISKCON temple is open, we go for the evening aarti to ISKCON and we come back. I did not even know that there are 7 local temples and there is, of course Govardhan, she said we know, but who will do parikrama? Because for outside people, they may go trekking and they may go jogging for hours, but if you say parikrama karo, 4 घंटे का नहीं होता है, very difficult. So I've never bothered कि we should do parikrama. ठीक है, is this Govardhan hill? शास्त्रों में लिखा है कि बहुत लंबा था, तो कुछ भी नहीं है. It's flat. So they can't think that Vrindavan Dham has something more than these 2-3 places. She said we will just visit 3 places in Vrindavan. For years we have been going. That means they did not take the trouble to inquire from a pure sadhu. First of all, they did not take the trouble to associate with a pure, find a sadhu who will guide them. And who will tell them what is Vrindavan. Like Prabhupada brought all his disciples from abroad, showed them Vrindavan. Showed them means gave divine vision to experience Vrindavan. So that is about bhakti, how to achieve bhakti. So take association, serve the sadhus, understand higher principles of life, and then we can go back to Godhead. Now the topic is power of bhakti. So what is meaning of power? So bhakti mein kya shakti hai? Usually when we hear the word power, we think power means strength, might, a force, command over others, possession of control, our ability, our accomplishments. They say, if one wants to test a man's character, give him power. If you give him power, designation, then uska true nature nikal aayega. Tum ye karo, We think that now we are the controllers, we can control others, we can get them to do things for us. But it's not that, leadership is not all about that, about just power. So experience has shown, even under the best forms of government, those entrusted with power, by slow operations in time, perverted in tyranny. So we have so many leaders. Even in Srimad Bhagavatam, we will see so many kings like Kansa, Ravana. They were tyrants, So they got the power, Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu, burn the cowsheds, destroy the brahmanas, don't engage, let them not engage in sacrifices, destroy everything. That power went to their head. So knowledge will give us power, but character gives us respect. The less we use our power, the greater it becomes. And the greater the power, the more dangerous the abuse. So we see the kings like Yudhishthir Maharaj, they had power, but how they used it? Ambrish Maharaj had power, how they used it? They did not misuse the power. So power can be used, misused and abused. Ravan abused his power. Kansa misused his power. So when you abuse, Ravana was just abducting women, Rishi's wives. It was the last woman that he abducted was a Rishi's wife. And then the Rishi cursed him. Next time, if ever you touch any lady, that she'll be the cause of your death. And that is why he did not touch Sita, because he knew if he forces Sita to surrender, he can die immediately. So he gave her time to surrender to him. So he was misusing his power. But you see Prithu Maharaj. When Prithu Maharaj was coronated as a king, and people were glorifying him. He said, no, 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 don't glorify me. I have not done anything to get that glory. First, at least let me prove myself. So the power can be taken, not given. The process of taking is empowering in itself, and one must empower oneself in order to be relevant in any type of struggle. So we have seen how Prabhupada was empowered. What is empowerment? Hari bol. Can you shift this? So Mataji also, just now Radha Mataji also said empowered. Women has to be empowered. So empowerment is about transforming someone by increasing their capacity or ability in order to help them make better choices that lead to desired outcome. So we empower people. You make the choice. Sometimes a father, a businessman will take his young son who has grown up now, has finished his studies. You come to office, and then the father will give him a separate cabin. Now you make decisions. Sometimes it may be good, sometimes there may be a loss, but he will learn through that loss. I mean, a good father will train him up that, okay, never mind, you have lost it. A mother will tell her daughter to make dal, sabji, and she will burn the rice. Koi baat nahi. The milk will overboil and spill over. She said, never mind. Because she knows next time the daughter will think, I put the rice on the gas and I was studying, and in 10 minutes the rice is burnt. So she will be more cautious next time. So you have to increase the capacity and ability in the people you empower. It is transferring of power and control over decisions, choices, and values. Even in companies, management style of companies, they say, to foster new goals, they use skills. So they have to empower their employees that you make this decision and you take the company forward. We see His Holiness Loknath Maharaj giving his disciples sannyas. So what happens? When Prabhupada also came to US, he was the only one. He had to empower so many people. He gave sannyas to so many people. So you go open center here, you go open a center here. Mataji just said, Malti Mataji, Sham Sundar Prabhu, Mukund Maharaj and Janaki Mataji, they all were sent to London. So they were not qualified to open a center, so to say, but Prabhupada empowered them and they did wonders. So, so when you get empowered, sometimes you say, I don't know what to do, I don't know how to do it. I empower you, now you do it. Srila Prabhupada also, before he went to America, he just thought that people call me Bhakti Vedantist, but I have no knowledge. I mean, he was humble to say that. But because of my Guru Maharaj's instructions, so when Guru gives instructions, he gives the empowerment with that instructions. If at that time, no sadhus were traveling across the ocean because it was considered hellish. Up Paschat Desh mein ja rahe, you're going to cross the 7 seas and go? No, 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 it's a sinful place. You should not go there. No sadhu would dare to went out to go to foreign land. But Prabhupada said, my Guru has empowered me. I don't know anybody, I have no money, I have no resources, no backup. But his backup was Guru's instructions. So Guru empowered him to do wonderful things. So we see now few examples. If you read Bhagavatam, you will see many, many examples. There's material empowerment and there's spiritual empowerment. You see, there's this story from Mahabharata. There was one Brahman student. He was learning the Vedas, and in olden days, the setting was very natural, in natural setting in the forest. So he was learning in the forest, all greenery, grass, trees. He was sitting under a tree, and one bird happened to soil his head. If a bird is sitting up and is sitting down, some kachra will come. So the bird soiled his head, and he had just finished his so-called training of the Vedic knowledge and shlokas, doing tapasya, fasting, serving Guru. And he also heard of the power of Brahmanas. We know Parikshit Maharaj was cursed by a Brahmana's son, Shringi. So that Brahmana's curse can be very powerful. He read all that and he was thinking, have I developed such power? So when the bird soiled his head, immediately he got so angry, he looked at the bird and through his eyes so much anger came out that immediately found that the bird has got burned to ashes and died. He says, oh my God, I could burn. But his ego got very, puffed up. He says, I can burn. I got so much power now. So then he went to various houses collecting madhukari. So he came to one lady's house. He came to one house and the lady opened the door and she said, yes, please wait. I will get something for you. So she went inside and she didn't come out for quite a long time. She was waiting. Arey, for one chapati, kitna time aapne mujhe rukaya hai? You know, he got upset. And then he started talking in a loud tone to the lady. You made me wait for so long. She said, hey, don't think that you can use your power as you used on the bird. And you burned the bird. He says, what? How do you know? She says, you may have got power by studying, but I have got power by serving. I'm serving my old parents. My sick in-laws are there. First, I have to take care of them. Then I will take care of others. So a woman gets chastity. A chaste woman gets her powers. We know Gandhari. How much power she had. Just because she wanted to be subservient to her husband. Like Mataji said, a woman should cook, she should sew, she should clean and take care of children. Apart from that, she can do so much more also. It's not that Prabhupada limited it to that. So all of us as serving our houses, our family members, it's not like, kya hai, woman ka sharir kya hai, it is so cursed. All I do is at home, but you get a lot of power if you do it nicely. Provided every house can become a spiritual hub. If there's a Lakshman Rekha from materialism, so that you have to avoid. But in your household duties, when you serve, keeping Krishna as the center, it becomes a spiritual hub. That house is not a Graha Medi's house, it is a Grahastha, where Krishna is the center. Otherwise, in chapter 13 in Bhagavad Gita, 13.10, is written, Asakti anabhishvanga putra dara grahadishu nityam sa samachittat ishtoneshtabapaitishu. That means don't just get entangled in dara, wife, graha, putra. We're not just supposed to get entangled, but we should do it. Not that I'm doing it for the sake of doing it. In South India, I heard of one mutt where the sadhu was giving initiation, sannyas diksha to many. And the list was there. And this man comes and says, Guru Maharaj, I have not seen my wife's face for so many. He was in Grahastha ashram. I don't talk to my children. I am very aloof. I'm reading scriptures whole day. And he started giving all the examples in his household life where he was completely detached from wife and children, not talking to them, fully absorbed. So Guru Maharaj said, I'm sorry, I can't give you sannyas diksha because you don't have emotions. If you don't have emotions for your family members, then as a sannyasi, how will you reach out? Sannyasi means you should preach. If you don't have karuna, then how will you preach? So you're not qualified to become. So don't think that you have to be cutter, cold and detached with family life. Then it will not work out. Then you're not qualified to do preaching also. Because there has to be some bhava, some emotions. So if we serve our family members with that emotion, then that house becomes a Krishna conscious house. Now we see King Priyavrat. Some 3 examples I will give. Is it time? So I have a few minutes more. So we won't go the full detail, but King Priyavrat, he was a great devotee and he thought, I don't want to be entangled. I want to go away to Gandhamadam hills and chant and be absorbed. Then his father, Swayambhu Manu Narad Muni, came and said, please come back. We don't have a king to rule. But he was not very keen. Then Brahmaji himself had to come to Gandhamadam hills and then he persuaded Priyavrat. He said, you can still be a king and still be detached. That's why we call them Raja Rishi. What is Raja Rishi versus Raja? Raja means I am the controller, I am the proprietor, I am the enjoyer. But Raja Rishi means they are actually sadhus in the form of kings. They are kings, but their heart is very detached. So they call Raja Rishis. So Brahmaji said, you come and rule the kingdom in that spirit of detachment. Then nothing will entangle you. He said, I don't want to get entangled, but he couldn't say no to Brahmaji's instruction. So look at the power he got by just obeying Brahmaji. So he used to always think that in some places, when the sun is in the northern hemisphere, the southern hemisphere is dark. When the sun travels in its orbit to the southern hemisphere, the northern hemisphere is in complete darkness. So he thought, I want to bring light everywhere. So he drove behind the sun in his chariot and he illuminated all the places. And it is said, when Priyavrat drove his chariot behind the sun, the rims of his chariot wheels created impressions that later became 7 oceans, dividing the planetary system as Bhumandal into 7 islands. So what is the power he got? So the same power, when it is used well, it becomes empowerment. So he obeyed his spiritual master, his father, and Brahmaji. And then this, you must have read in the Bhagavatam, there was a sea of pure water, sea of milk, sea of yogurt, sea of ghee, sea of wine, sugarcane juice, and salt water. We have salt water ocean, so we can't think what is pure water ocean. What is pure water ocean? We can't think of an ocean of milk. All of us will go and pick up tons of milk and bring back. And ghee, so much ghee. Can make laddus and so many nice sweets with ghee, so much ghee. Oh, this sweet has lots of ghee. So ghee is so expensive, good quality ghee. But there's an ocean of ghee. Can you imagine? I will not talk of ocean of liquor, but sugarcane juice. So next. So this is the power king Priyavrat derived. Next. We spoke about Dhruv Maharaj. He was hurt by the words of his stepmother when he was sitting in the lap of his father. She pushed him out. He was very hurt, and his mother said, okay, pray to the Lord. He went to the forest. Then by mercy of Krishna, he got a guru. Narad Muni came, gave him a mantra, told him to make a deity, chant, and also he performed so many austerities, standing on one leg like this, Dhruvasan, then not eating food. Every 1 month he had some berries, some leaves, some dry twigs. He did so much austerity. Within 6 months, he got cleansed. And look at the power he got, that he pressed his toe on the earth and the demigods felt suffocated. And they ran to Vishnu and said, what is happening? We're all choked up. He says, my little child is doing lots of austerities. I should go and satisfy him. Then the Lord came on the Garuda and then he gave darshan to Dhruv Maharaj and he asked him, you're praying to me for so much, what can I offer you? The Lord gave him the benediction that you will become a pole star. So, and 36,000 years he ruled. So that was the power he got. So, just by performing austerities, doing bhakti, chanting the holy name, not by austerity, but chanting the holy name of the Lord, such a small child became purified and cleansed. We know the story of Ambrish Maharaj. He fasted for 48 days for the benefit of his citizens. And there comes Durvas Muni wanting to eat some food, goes to the river to take a bath. And Ambrish Maharaj has to break the Ekadasi in proper time. Just by sipping a little water, the wrath of Durvas Muni cursed him, demon came. So all the story, and Sudarshan Chakra actually, instead of the demon killing Ambrish Maharaj, when we curse a great soul, that curse comes back upon us. दूसरों को बुरा करेंगे तो बुरा अपने ऊपर ही आता है. He went to Shiv Lok, he went to Brahma Lok, he went praying to all of them, please save me from the heat of Sudarshan. So the Lord said, we can't save you. Next. Brahmaji said, Sudarshan Chakra is the prerogative of Vishnu. Go to Vishnu Loka. Then he thought Shiva is Ashutosh. He will be pleased. He will help me. Shiva said, I'm sorry. I can't deal with Sudarshan Chakra. And finally he went to Vishnu Lok. And then he reached Vaikunta and the Lord Narayan advised him, see, you have hurt my devotee, so I can't help you. Because my devotee is very dear to me. There's a beautiful shloka. Sadhavo hridayam mayam sadhunam hridayam tvaham mad anya te na jananti naham tebhyo manag api. The pure devotee is always within the core of my heart and I am always in the heart of pure devotee. My devotee do not know anything else but me and I do not know anything else but them. So the Lord did not take charge. He said, sorry, you are a mystic yogi, you have done a lot of tapasya, but that doesn't please me at all. Ambrish Maharaj has served with all his senses. He is my pure devotee. So, so then he went back to Ambrish Maharaj and Ambrish Maharaj was waiting. He didn't say, Chala gaya to chalo abhi main khana kha leta hu. He waited and then Durvas Muni begged forgiveness from him and he also fell down. He said, no, it's not your fault. We know Prithu Maharaj with Indra. Indra came to beg forgiveness. Prithu Maharaj said, no, it's okay. And he embraced him. So this is the power of bhakti. There is no malice, there is no envy. There is, but there shouldn't be. So we have to work on that. Now look at the power of bhakti Srila Prabhupada had. There's a power of bhakti to go at the age of 70 to foreign land alone, not knowing anybody, stranger, no money, no backup, no support. He made hippies into happies. And he started such a revolutionary movement for all of us. Opening temples, installing deities, establishing a culture, giving us so much a peep into the spiritual world. We got a peep into spiritual world. Vrindavan was always there, but where were we? We were lost. So Prabhupada, now even this temple, yesterday I went to, which was temple? Radha Madan Mohan temple. Prabhupada installed the deities. So Hyderabad is a Punya Dham. Prabhupada came here, installed deities. And now we have so much to do in Hyderabad. So each one, teach one, reach one. So each one of us should reach to another person and teach that person. And that person will again reach to another person, outreach programs, and then teach them. So that is our mission. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Bharata bhumi te hoile manushya janmayar, janma sarthaka kari, karo par upkar. So we have to improve our lives and improve the lives of others. And that is bhakti. And we will think, I am not qualified, I am just a beginner. But even in the beginning stage, Krishna can empower us. So we have that Shakti. I have written a small little poem.
Ask them to play it there,
Yeah. Oh, they play it? So we had made this poem for Prabhupada's Vyas Puja, but I have omitted 7-8 verses. I have taken one and added something on that. Yeah. So we'll just play at the end of this session today. So it is the power of bhakti. Again, I say that I came all the way from Pune to be with you. It is the power of your bhakti. I am happy to be with you, all of you here today. So each one of us has that power. But we have to, just like butter is there, but we have to churn the milk, churn the curd to bring the butter out. Butter is inherent, but we have to, the process of churning is our process of bhakti. So bhakti sprouts in a fertile soil. The holy name of the Lord is like the seed. And the watering of that seed is our sadhana. And then the plant fructifies. And then we have to take out the weeds of anartha, of materialism. And then the sunlight of God's grace through the Guru falls on that. And then it grows. And the fruit of that is what? Pure bhakti. So the fruit has already fallen in Hyderabad land. And everybody is tasting the nice fruit of bhakti here. Such a potent, beautiful Sangha here. And I know Mataji and so many of you are preaching and connecting so many to Krishna and to the holy name. So I thank you very much for having me over. It's been a very pleasurable experience. Jai Pataka Swami, Kishore ko bhakti charu manaya. So all our sannyasis also. So Prabhupada, I think the clapping was more than the sound of the song. But you can hear it later. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Janu Mataji, for that powerful lecture. I want to call it powerful because you so nicely summarized Bhakti, right from Mahabhagavata's examples to Kali Yuga examples, and finally the practical aspects of, how we can do sadhu, seva and sangha and then get the mercy of the Lord. Thank you so much, Mataji. Request Divyalila Mataji to give a small token of our gratitude, a very small token, Mataji, for your efforts. Thank you. Power of Bhakti video.
भक्ति की शक्ति, देखो भक्ति की शक्ति, देती संतुष्टि, देती तुष्टि और पुष्टि। भक्ति अपनाते सब अनर्थ है जाते, वैराग्य और ज्ञान साथ पाते। भक्ति की शक्ति, देखो भक्ति की शक्ति। हरिदास का संग जब चिंतामणि ने लिया, श्रवण से शुद्ध हुई आत्मा को तुष्ट किया। भक्ति की शक्ति, देखो भक्ति की शक्ति। डाकू रत्नाकर को संग नारद जी का मिला, बनकर वाल्मीकि रामायण रस दिया। भक्ति की शक्ति, देखो भक्ति की शक्ति। शूद्र रूप में जब साधु सेवा को किया, देह मिली नारद की, उच्च भक्त वो कहलाया। भक्ति की शक्ति, देखो भक्ति की शक्ति। जगाई मधाई को कृपा नित्यानंद की मिली। हृदय का मैल गया, इसी जन्म में शुद्धि मिली। भक्ति की शक्ति, देखो भक्ति की शक्ति। ऋषि को राधा नानक भक्ति ले आई। किशोर को भक्ति चारू की पदवी दिलवाई। भक्ति की शक्ति, देखो भक्ति की शक्ति। गौरडन को कैसे गौरांग का धन दिया, गोपाल कृष्ण स्वामी को रस पुस्तक में दिया। है प्रभुपाद की कृपा, इस्कॉन हमें है दिया। भक्ति के उत्तम रस को है मुफ्त में बांट दिया। भक्ति की शक्ति, देखो भक्ति की शक्ति। देती संतुष्टि, देती तुष्टि और पुष्टि।
Thank you very